probably get challenged in the courts. The one thing that I always am confused about in this debate, though, is the idea of cheap labour, totally a thing. Is that the fault of the migrant or the boss that's willing to undercut? And therefore, if we stop this sort of stuff, are we to believe those same pernicious bosses are going to pay British workers the proper wage?
They'll have to if suddenly there's a labour shortage, and that's the point of the market, isn't it?
But we have labour
wages
shortages,
are set
though.
at the price that's required in order to take someone on. So that's what they're banking on.
I agree.
But he did make the point that too many people are signed off work sick, and they were going to address that in a second.
Yeah, and that's why I think it was a welfare pitch as much as it was immigration.
Yeah.
So is he going to force people into work that can't?
And he's said to his guns that more than 50% of migrants are claiming benefits.
Yeah, and it's been proven the Labour government...
We have to go. I'm so sorry, Piers. We'll be back tomorrow. But up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GBNews was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GBNews exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first. GBNews came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GBNews exists to make sure those concerns are put forward, and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense.
Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at. Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Monday, the 22nd of September. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Acquia.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
Yes, Nigel Farage has vowed to scrap the main route that migrants take to gain citizenship in this country, making all recent arrivals apply for new visas if they want to stay here. Could this tough new test save taxpayers' money? Well, we'll hear live from Nigel Farage in an exclusive interview in just a few minutes' time.
That man... I forgive him.
Erica Kirk, she's the widow of political activist Charlie Kirk, paid tribute to her husband at the memorial service in Arizona. In a powerful moment, she told the crowd that she had forgiven her accused killer. But what does it mean to forgive those who do such great harm? And should we?
Elsewhere, the Lib Dems warn of a £300 stealth tax per family in the budget and announce a smartphone curb plan for children. Yes, it's day 3 of the Lib Dem party conference, and we're there live.
As Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the State of Palestine.
Sir Keir Starmer's Gaza gamble. Terror group Hamas declares victory as this afternoon the government officially recognises the State of Palestine at the United Nations. Has Britain rewarded terrorism?
Nothing beats a Gatwick holiday. Yes, Britain's second largest airport has been cleared for takeoff as the government gives the green light for a second runway. It could see up to 100,000 more flights take off from the airport each year.
NATO has banned a list of offensive words, including airmen, in a push for gender-inclusive language. So has NATO gone woco?
Yeah. Busy day of news, isn't
it? Isn't it just? Of course, the state of Palestine being recognised, Hamas celebrating that initiative. What are your kind of thoughts on that?
I think there should be a two-state solution. I think that's where most of the country is. There should be a viable Palestinian state and there should be a secure state of Israel. But surely recognition comes at the end of that process, not at the beginning. I mean, what incentive structure is there now to reach that sort of negotiated settlement that we all want to see? I mean, recognition comes at the end of that process, not at the beginning, and certainly not after a horrendous terror attack that kicked off a brutal war.
And also, what power does Keir Starmer have anyway? So you've recognised it as a Palestinian state. Where are the borders? Where's the capital? Who's going to run it? And what power do you have saying that you're recognising it? What does it mean to you? And what does it mean to us? And what impact will it have on Israel, who are supposedly our allies? I don't know what... I think it's just a distraction, actually, from what's going on at home.
Well, of course, we're going to be seeing the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, formally sort of acknowledge the UK's recognition of Palestine at the United Nations General Assembly later on today, but also so much more. We've got Nigel Farage's new policy, and we'll be bringing an interview with him live in just some moments' time. Do get your thoughts in, gbnews.com/your say, all to come after your latest news headlines with Sam.
Very good afternoon to you. The top story just after midday. Well, Reform UK says it would abolish indefinite leave to remain if it wins the next election, forcing migrants with settled status to reapply for visas every 5 years. The party says only British citizens would get access to welfare under the plan, which he claims could save £230 billion, though some dispute that figure. Labour has dismissed the policy as a gimmick, while critics warn it risks breaching post-Brexit agreements and could harm businesses. Reform, though, argues the changes would end what it calls the era of cheap foreign labour and lead to mass deportations. Nigel Farage says too many migrants don't work, and taxpayers are, he says, being hammered to pay for it.
We are not the world's food bank. It is not for us to provide welfare for people coming in from all over the world. The 800,000 people that will get indefinite leave to remain unless this policy is revoked tend to be young, tend to be low-skilled. They are going to be a huge burden on the state.
And more from Nigel Farage on that policy later this hour. In other news, the UK has formally recognised a Palestinian state in a historic shift backed by Canada, Australia, Portugal and now France. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has blasted the move as a reward for terrorism, while families of hostages in Gaza call it a betrayal. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper says she has warned Israel not to annex parts of the West Bank in response. She'll join France and other nations at the UN in New York today, where Palestinian statehood is set to dominate the talks. Cooper says Britain has a moral duty to revive the hope of a two-state solution. Well, on that, earlier, Middle East Minister Hamish Falconer rejected the suggestion that recognition of Palestine was motivated by any internal Labour politics.
We need to hold open the hope of two states living side by side, two communities living side by side in the Middle East. I'm the MP for Lincoln, and I know that people right across Lincoln and the country are concerned by the violence in Gaza. They are concerned by the fact that hostages still haven't been released, and they're concerned by the escalation of violence, and the Bush government is taking action to try and chart an alternative path towards peace for two people.
In the US, Donald Trump has hailed Charlie Kirk as a great American hero and martyr at a memorial service last night. Tens of thousands packed into State Farm Stadium, where the Vice President, J.D. Vance, and other top Trump officials praised the activist's legacy. Kirk, who founded Turning Point USA at the age of just 18, was shot dead while debating students in Utah earlier this month. Kirk's wife, Erica, gave an emotional speech saying she forgave her husband's alleged killer.
That young man, I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do.
Here, Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander has given the green light for a new £2.2 billion second runway at Gatwick Airport. The privately funded project would bring the so-called Northern Runway into full use, allowing up to 70,000 more flights each year and doubling passenger numbers to 80 million. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has said it would deliver thousands of jobs and billions more in investment, calling it part of plans to get Britain building again. But the Green Party has branded the move a disaster for the climate. Campaigners also warning of more noise, more traffic and more pollution. Gatwick Airport, already the busiest in Europe with a single runway, hopes planes could be taking off from the new strip before the next general election. Flight disruption across Europe is set to continue after a cyber attack knocked out airline check-in and boarding systems. Brussels Airport has asked airlines today to cancel nearly half of their flights. That's around 140 departures. Heathrow says most flights are still running, though airlines are still boarding manually with no end in sight to that outage. Police are appealing for help to identify 18 more people after violence at the Unite the Kingdom march in London. Hundreds of thousands joined the rally led by Tommy Robinson on the 13th of September, which he called the biggest freedom of speech event in British history. Around 5,000 counter-protesters also gathered, with clashes breaking out on Whitehall and Trafalgar Square. 24 arrests were made and 26 officers assaulted. The Met has released 16 new images urging people nationwide to come forward with any information. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you very shortly. Now, though, it's over to Tom and Nana.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's almost 10 minutes past midday. Now, the leader of the Reform Party, Nigel Farage, has been laying out Reform's immigration plans, and he's talking tough.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
And that wasn't all. Reform also announced that under their plans, welfare will be for UK citizens only, and teased that the salary threshold for visas would substantially rise.
Well, we will be speaking to Nigel Farage a little bit later in this programme, but for now, let's get the thoughts of Labour councillor Sebastian Salek. Sebastian, I think a lot of people sitting at home will think, well, surely welfare should only be for UK citizens.
I don't think so. I think it should be for anybody who works in this country and who contributes to our economy and our community. And most people who move here legally, and remember, we are talking about legal migrants here, are doing that. Something like 16% of the British population is foreign-born. A similar amount is the number of immigrants who are on universal credit. So it's broadly proportionate with the number of people in the country. The myth of migrants coming over here, going on benefits, is exactly that, a myth, and we have to remember that. But look, Nigel Farage, anything he says now is for one purpose only, and that is to win the next through with it. He just needs to create the sense that he is going to be tough on all of this, and then he'll have to face that problem once he gets on the other side of the line, if indeed he does. So let's not take it too seriously either.
Sebastian, he said that about 800,000 people will get indefinite leave to remain very shortly, and that basically this country can't afford it because half of those people aren't working, is what he was saying, so they're claiming benefits. So, and also that it was difficult to get the actual statistics because the government, in a sense, hide figures and don't want us to know about it. So is it not reasonable to suggest that if people have come here legally but are claiming benefits, that perhaps they shouldn't get the indefinite leave to remain?
I mean, look, if people come here and they work for the period and live for the period that they need to qualify for indefinite leave to remain, they should be allowed to get that. Now, look, Labour is consulting on extending that period from 5 years to 10. And I think that's probably the way to go on this. It's a sensible adjustment to the system which addresses the problem rather than the burning the house down approach which Nigel Farage is going for here. I think this tells us there is no limit to the people who Farage and Reform will come for. First, it was illegal migrants. Now it's legal migrants. It's people like my partner or my mum who have lived here for decades, some of them, and are contributing positively to their societies, who have jobs that are helping people who are in need. Many of them are working within the NHS and operate on us or give us health advice when we need it. There is this kind of spectre that these people are evil and are sucking away from society. That just isn't the case. These are people who are integrated in our societies and are really valuable to us, both economically and socially.
And you're absolutely right. The doctors are valuable. The lawyers are valuable. The high-wage migrants are valuable. Actually, average wage migrants as well, because they tend to come when they're adults. We don't spend on their education. They are net fiscal positives. These are numbers from the OBR. But what the OBR also says is that low-wage migrants are net fiscal drains. And that's not because they're out of work. It's in many cases because they're in low-wage work, which is topped up with social spending and, of course, all the other elements of our social security infrastructure in this country. It is true to say that those low-wage migrants, they're a fiscal cost to the country, according to the OBR, rather than a net benefit.
In the same way that anybody, whether you're born here or not, is if you're doing a low-wage job. And the problem is work isn't paying enough. That is the core issue here that has to be tackled. It doesn't matter where you're born. If you're doing that job, you're doing it for a reason. People who move over come to do the jobs that we can't fill. I'm pleased to see Labour is cracking down on this. They're forcing employers to be able to hire from home here in Britain, to be able to pay people properly rather than relying on foreign labour. But it's those sorts of changes that are important here. I think what Nigel Farage is doing is really, really extreme. I find it incredibly vulgar. I'm not convinced he'll go through with it. He has a big habit of backtracking. You saw that around sending people to the Taliban, sending women to the Taliban. To be honest, not quite sure where he stands on that now. He's changed his mind so many times. But for him, it's about creating noise, and he's certainly done that today. His biggest skill is comms. He's had another great comms day, but at the expense of people who have lived here for a long time, have contributed in all sorts of ways. And I'm really sorry to see the fear that they are facing.
Just one really quick question on that, because Nigel Farage did say that if you've lived here for 7 years under his proposals, you could become a British citizen. If we're talking about people who live in this country and have lived here for decade after decade after decade, why would they be on indefinite leave to remain? Why wouldn't they have become a British citizen?
Because it's really expensive. I can speak to this personally. My partner has lived here for more than a decade, has not applied because it costs £1,500. That is just not the kind of money a lot of people have lying around. And, you know, she earns a decent wage, but still, in life, there are so many financial pressures. So it is not an easy process by any means, even now, to apply for British citizenship.
But that's saving £150 a year.
Anyway, wouldn't you prioritise if you really want to stay in the country, if you're that passionate about it? You'd prioritise, just like you have a bill for a mobile phone, just like you have a bill for anything else. There is a cost, and there should be a cost for somebody who wants to become a British citizen after a period of time, because it's a valuable asset. So, so if you want that, that's fair enough. But I just want to bring you back to you talking about migrants who bring in a lot to the country, which is true, and there are shortages of skills. But Nigel did cover that with the ASSV visa, didn't he? So acute shortage skills visa. So for those places where we have a huge shortage, there would be a facility that accommodates those people. And he also put in a minimum kind of level of money or income that someone needs before they can actually apply for indefinite leave to remain. So surely all of that is a good thing, and he's covering all bases to ensure that these people who are here legally are not a net drain. That's got to be good for the British public, surely.
To be honest, I would question anything we've heard today, given that the financial assumptions it's based on have been poo-pooed by the organisation that put them together. The CPS, the Centre for Policy Studies, has said that its own figures, the 234 billion savings, should not be used as a basis for making this calculation. So I'd be really careful with anything that's being announced. Once again, it's a fanfare, it's a comms announcement, it's working, it's getting on the front pages of all the newspaper websites, but is it really going to happen? I'm not so sure, but it's certainly going to be music to the ears of the right people that Farage wants to reach.
OK, Sebastian Salek, thanks indeed for joining us.
I think Nigel did make that point anyway, that the statistics are very difficult to get hold of, and they're based on historic data that is very old, and actually the numbers are probably far higher.
Well, shall we find out more from our political correspondent Olivia Utley, who's there live at the press conference venue? Olivia.
Hello, yes, we've been at a press conference where Nigel Farage is announcing that indefinite leave to remain scheme will be scrapped completely under a reform government. He is talking about the Boris wave, as he calls it, those, he says, millions of people who are coming up to receive indefinite leave to remain in the next few years, people who came here after Brexit. I spoke to Nigel Farage just a few moments ago about the plan in more detail. This is what he had to say.
There are nearly 1 million people over the course of the next few years will qualify for indefinite leave to remain. They're part of the Boris wave shortly after he became Prime Minister. Once they get that status, they can bring dependents. Once they get that status, they can access fully all the welfare benefits in this country. Already, 1 in 6 on universal credit are foreign-born people. This is going to bankrupt us. So what we're saying is people won't get indefinite leave to remain, and that benefits, that welfare should be for UK citizens. Now, the separate debate is we need foreign workers. We need foreign workers. Well, if we do, that's fine. They can come under a special visa, they can work, but they can't bring dependents. They can't be a burden on the system. And actually, by having a proper visa system in Britain, we become like most normal countries around the world. Coming to work should not automatically entitle you to settle and bring your family.
You say they can't bring dependents. I'm talking about the care sector specifically because obviously there is a crisis of workers in the care sector. Lots of the people who are coming here to work in the care sector are women who have children. If you don't allow them to bring their children, how will you get the right number of workers to staff the care sector?
We can't afford it. We can't afford it. If someone comes to work in the care sector and brings children with them, we have to educate them. We have to provide them with healthcare. We can't do it. And it's all the wrong way around. All the questions I get from journalists are, well, what about people coming into Britain from abroad? What about people here? What about people here who can't access GP services because of the exploding population? What about people here who are paying their taxes so that benefits can go to those that weren't born in this country? So we're asking for a rethink in terms of how we do this. And you know what? We will find care workers in Britain and from around the world who come without dependents.
You say that. I mean, history shows that often British people don't want to work in the care sector. That is why we are importing care workers from abroad. Are you sure that the British workers will take up the jobs which are vacated by those foreign care workers?
That is because mass unskilled and semi-skilled foreign labour has driven wages down so that the minimum wage becomes the maximum wage. And if people were able to see a benefit to them of coming off welfare payments and going to work, you'd find more people going to work.
You've said that those applying for citizenship would have to wait 7 years rather than the current 5 to be in the UK before they can apply for citizenship. The Conservatives and even Labour are now saying that they would up the number of years it would take to apply for indefinite leave to remain from 5 years to 10 years. To me, it sounds as though your policy is more lax than theirs. Or is there a big difference between citizenship and indefinite leave to remain? And if there is, can you explain what it is?
So neither the Conservative or Labour parties want to deal with the whole area of indefinite leave to remain. So what they're doing is kicking the can down the road in response to what we've said today and over the course of the preceding months. But if you do that, it means there's another 5 years when a load more people come who they themselves in turn could in the years afterwards qualify for indefinite leave to remain. The result of kicking the can down the road is that even more people would come into the country who will not contribute towards the economy at massive cost to us.
So the 7 years before they can get citizenship, why is it 7 years? Is that different?
because we're doing 5-year renewable visas. So if you've done your 5 years, you've obeyed the law, you've paid your taxes, and we renew your visa for 5 more years, you've proven that you can be an asset to this country. You can't do it in 5, but you can certainly do it by getting into the second term.
Thank you very much, Nigel Farage. So that was Nigel Farage explaining his policy. You'll see he said that journalists are asking questions the wrong way round. We shouldn't be asking about whether people who come here should be given right to remain here. We should be talking about the people who are here already. But I think there were some unanswered questions there over exactly how that very, very strained care workers sector is going to be staffed, particularly if British workers don't happily fall into the jobs vacated by their foreign counterparts.
All right, Olivia Utley, thank you very much. Political editor, correspondent, sorry, Olivia Utley. I love her glasses.
Yeah, and I love the venue as well.
It looks very
after Chequers last week, this week, we're having some press conferences and some really lovely wood-panelled venues, and I'm all for it.
Right, well, if you just tuned in, it's just fast approaching 23 minutes after 12 o'clock. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, the Liberal Democrats are marching to announce a smartphone curb plans for children. It's day 3 of their fairly typical party conference. We'll be there live next, with or without the marching band.
But obviously with Ed Davey. All that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Are you panicking when you're in Northern Ireland when you go out and about because there is a lack of chargers?
Well, listen, I'm really pro-EV, and we've had the odd issue with broken EV chargers, particularly yesterday at both Ballymoney at Beasties and also over at Dunsilley. We had issues with chargers, but the charging infrastructure is used very rarely. My mother, for example, she has overnight charging at home. She's never used a public charger, and she's had the car for 3 years. Yeah. So if you've got that domestic overnight charging, it's cheap. It's very affordable if you buy a 2-year-old EV, and they are absolutely the way forward. I'm a Yorkshireman. I don't like parting with my brass. I want to get cheap motoring, and for less than a penny a mile and a car for less than 20 grand to start with, you know, it sounds a bit blasé saying £20,000, but relative to what these cars are new, they're incredible value for money, and we're seeing mass adoption. There's a garage in Richmond in North Yorkshire that sells more than half of the cars they sell are electric vehicles, and that's in a rural Dales area. So it's about having that domestic overnight charging and not having to rely on public infrastructure.
Danny, where it doesn't convince me at all is, right, so I'm living in London and I want to go to see Manchester United, and I might get there, but am I going to get back down again? Or worse still, if I'm not on full charge, I'm going to miss kickoff because I'm going to have to rely on a public charger somewhere. So is that the sort of anxiety? I mean, you were talking about range anxiety there, Ellie. Is that the sort of anxiety people have? I mean, I genuinely have that. Despite what we were hearing there from Fraser.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's day 3 of the Liberal Democrat Autumn Conference in Bournemouth.
Yes, a couple of the ideas being put forward by the party include a cigarette-style health warning on social media apps, what they call a doom-scrolling cap too.
So will these announcements do anything to wrestle the attention away from Reform and Labour?
Well, let's cross to Bournemouth live with our political editor, Christopher Hope, who's joined by the Lib Dem MP, Helen Morgan. Chris.
That's right, Tom. Hi, Nana. Well, welcome to a gorgeously sunny Bournemouth. With me now is Helen Morgan. She is Liberal Democrats' health spokesman. Helen Morgan, you've heard what Nigel Farage has announced today. What is your reaction?
Well, I think everybody knows that the immigration and asylum system was completely broken under the Conservatives, but I think the proposal he's come up with today is fundamentally unserious. Apart from the legal quagmire that he's going to get bogged down with all these people who've been given a legal right to stay and work here, it's really disastrous for those industries that are short on workers. So the health and care sector, obviously, I have a particular interest in, but also our hospitality sector. I think it's a policy that's set to fail.
He would chuck out people arriving here under the Hong Kong programme, Ukrainian families, they would have to maybe leave or find a way to stay here. Is that the right answer? I mean, but he's trying to take on that figure, the Boris wave, hundreds of thousands of people arriving here. Someone's got to do something about that, and you're not, and he is.
Well, I think lots of people in this country gave their homes up for people to come from Ukraine to flee Vladimir Putin's illegal invasion and the horrors that we have seen going on there. And I think for those people that have decided to make their life here, to contribute to our economy and our communities, to say to them that they have to go back to a war zone is fundamentally immoral, actually.
But is it sustainable to have hundreds of thousands of people arriving here legally every year, as we've seen and are seeing this year and going back many years?
Well, some of those people that have arrived legally have arrived because we've neglected the sectors that they work in. So, for example, let's take the care sector. Hundreds of thousands of people have come here to care for frail and elderly people in our communities. Now, we should be grateful for them for doing that work, but if we can't sustain those levels of immigration, then we need to find a way to make that sector sustainable here. So the proposals we've come up with, giving carers a higher minimum wage, giving them professional career progression, that would make sure we have the people we need to work in that sector and not need to bring people from overseas to work here.
You say Nigel Farage is unserious, but at least he's trying to tackle the serious issue. Immigration is one of the two top issues in this country, the other being the NHS. You're attaching cigarette-style warnings to TikTok videos. How is that even more serious than Farage?
Well, fundamentally, when we look at young people and their mental health, there are numerous studies that show that their mental health is being seriously badly affected by social media. And we know that once they have poor mental health when they're young, they're less likely to be in work when they get older. It's a really, really serious problem. It's awful for them and it's really costly for the NHS and for society. So if we can take a simple step to reduce the amount of time people spend on social media and improve their mental health and their well-being, that's good for them and it's good for the taxpayer too.
Isn't the answer parenting? Better parents telling their kids get off the phones and do something different. I mean, why is the nanny state the answer?
So I don't think it is a nanny state. It's not going to be banning people from doing it. It's a warning. We talk a lot about freedom from and freedom to as Liberals. We're absolutely keeping the freedom to. We live in a modern digital world. We can't pretend it's not there, but we do need to give people the information they need to make wise decisions about how much time they're going to spend on social media.
Just back to Reform UK, do you worry that with 5 MPs, they're miles ahead in the polls than your party? Why is that? Why are they cutting through? Why are they making a difference? You've got 72 MPs, they have 5. Why aren't you doing the same kind of impact?
Because they're coming up with fundamentally unserious policies that are really good for clickbait. We're here doing the hard yards, talking to people in our communities, having a really good conference, debating serious policy that would make this country better, and we're confident that where we take them on, we can beat them.
And just very finally, in terms of a coalition after the election, would you welcome your party going to a coalition with the Labour Party?
Well, I think it's way too early to be talking about the next election. You know, this time in 2020, we were expecting another term of the Conservatives. So I think starting to call the result now is something I won't be getting into doing.
Okay. Perhaps a swim later, Helen Morgan. Maybe that. Helen Morgan there from the Lib Dems with her views on Nigel Farage's plans announced just now.
All right, Christopher, I was enjoying that. I thought, thank you, Christopher. Brilliant, that's Christopher Hope. Yeah,
no, he does get the best. It does look nice weather down there as well, really, yeah. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News in a slightly more chilly London. Lots more coming up on today's programme, but first, let's get those latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon, 12:31. The top story this hour. Reform UK has said it would scrap indefinite leave to remain, forcing migrants to reapply for visas every 5 years. Labour has branded it a gimmick that risks harming businesses and breaking post-Brexit deals. But Nigel Farage claims it could save billions of pounds and put an end to cheap foreign workers.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
Britain's recognition of a Palestinian state is set to dominate the UN summit in New York today. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper says the move is about reviving the hope of peace. Israel, though, has condemned it as a reward for terrorism. In America, tens of thousands gathered to honour activist Charlie Kirk. Donald Trump hailed him as a martyr, while Kirk's widow made headlines by forgiving her husband's killer. Gatwick Airport has been given the green light for a £2.2 billion second runway, with ministers calling it a no-brainer for growth. The project could see more than 100,000 extra flights each year, but critics warn it's a disaster for the climate. And police are appealing for help to identify 18 more people after violence at the Unite the Kingdom march in London. Officers say 26 police were assaulted as bottles and flares were thrown during clashes with counter-protesters. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with your news at 1.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Thank you, Sam. Lots more coming up on today's show. In a powerful moment, Charlie Kirk's widow told the crowd that she'd forgiven his accused killer. But what does it mean to forgive those who do such great harm? And should we?
All of that and indeed more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, today got off to a bit of a fresh start, but there was also plenty of sunshine this morning, and that's the theme that we're going to take into the afternoon as well, with high pressure firmly in control. It was this high pressure that led to clear skies and light winds overnight, allowing temperatures to take a bit of a drop, and it's that same weather setup we have through the afternoon, so a largely fine picture for many of us. Lots of sunshine, especially across England and Wales. A little bit cloudy, with a few showery bursts perhaps across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. The showers most frequent towards the northeast. Now, it is a bit fresh out there at the moment, but in the sunshine, especially across England and Wales, should feel relatively warm. Temperatures getting into mid to high teens Celsius. Generally, that is a little bit below average for the time of year. Through the end of the day, not a huge amount changes, so the Northern Isles still seeing some fairly frequent outbreaks of showery rain, a few showers skirting some coastal parts of Scotland, and maybe one or two showers around coastal parts of Northern Ireland too. Most places, though, staying largely dry. You can't rule out one or two showers feeding into northwest Wales, but again, most areas having a dry end to the day and some late sunshine as well breaking through. Then as we go overnight, a few showers continuing here and there, mainly towards the far northeast of Scotland, perhaps the far southeast of England seeing a few showers, and the winds picking up here as well. Elsewhere, most places having another dry, clear and calm night. So once more, I'm expecting temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Some rural spots could see a touch of frost, especially in the north, and there may be the odd pocket of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning, but this will quickly clear because once the sun comes up, that will burn any mist and fog away, and then we're set to have another largely fine day for many, the exception being across parts of the east-southeast of England, where the winds will be strengthening and there will be some showery bursts pushing their way in. Temperatures, well, similar to today, so a bit below average.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M25 clockwise is affected by a crash between junction 9 and 10, causing lane closures. Further disruptions are expected on the A430 eastbound between the A382 and the junction with the A377, with congestion delays. In Surrey, the M25 clockwise also faces disruptions between junction 9 and 10 due to an accident, leaving one lane closed. And on the trains, there's a disruption on the Avanti West Coast between Crewe and Stafford, as well as on the East Midlands Railway between Chesterfield and Nottingham. Plan your journeys accordingly. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Now, last night there wasn't a dry eye in the House after this extraordinary moment where Erica Kirk forgave the man accused of her husband's murder.
That young man. I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do.
Just an incredibly moving moment. But this moment has started a debate, which is, should we forgive people? People who are responsible for such awful, terrible crimes? Or should we only forgive those who are who are repentant, those who say sorry?
Well, joining us now to discuss this is Pastor and Affinity Director Graham Nichols, and also Chief Executive of Turning Point UK, Jack Ross. OK, Jack, I'm going to start with you. Very tragic. Sorry to hear, to obviously hear the news of your colleague who was taken from us. An exceptional human being, I have to say, incredible human being, and of course launched your organisation. What are your thoughts on how brave Erica Kirk was, and also was she right to forgive?
I think she was incredibly brave last night to be able to speak for 30 minutes from the heart, to power through, and you could see she was clearly emotional, and we're just so proud of her at Turning Point, and so happy that she's decided to take up Charlie's mantle. We can't think of anyone better to lead us. I thought it was very powerful that she forgave the killer. However, in terms of my personal opinion, obviously from a Turning Point perspective, forgiveness is the policy at the moment. But as for my opinion, I think forgiveness is only for those who are truly repentant and sorry. And from what I've seen, the alleged killer, he's not shown any remorse. If anything, he was incredibly proud of what he did, the horrific assassination, and actually the response from the wider left-wing community has largely been mocking and mourning, and I think that echoes the sentiment of the killer. They aren't sorry, they aren't repentant, so why should we forgive them?
There's a strong opinion there. Graham Nichols, what does it mean to forgive someone who is unrepentant and evil?
I think at a personal level, it means to not hold the debt against them. And I think that's what she was signalling. I think it is worth saying it was an absolutely phenomenal event. I watched it for 5 hours last night, and others obviously watched it from earlier, the kind of the kind of worship and stuff that happened before it started at 7 p.m. our time. There's no event been like that, where you've got a global event where people are talking about Jesus Christ and salvation and the cross and resurrection and all those things. So I think as a cultural moment, it was a phenomenal event, and probably her speech was the highlight in terms of emotion and content and everything else. And I think what she meant by the forgiveness was the offer of forgiveness. She's not reconciling to someone who can't offer an explanation or apology, but she is saying, I'm not going to hold this against you at a personal level, which is different to saying what the state might need to do. But I think she's saying, I'm not holding that burden, I'm not holding that debt at a personal level against you.
Could you explain that just a little bit further? I mean, to not hold that at a personal level, does that mean one would be content if the state drops the charges? I mean, I'm obviously taking it to an extreme here, but to me, I can't quite reconcile these two things in my head, that you can forgive and sort of absolve in one sense, but surely any rational person would think punishment is necessary.
No, that doesn't mean you don't get punished.
Yeah, I think it's possible to hold those two in tension. And obviously, there's perhaps a contradiction in a weird way, but I think it's possible to say, I am not holding this in my heart as a grudge against you, as a debt you've got to repay to me. Whatever debt you owe to the state, because the state's put there by God in order to bear the sword and do all those things. But against me, I'm not holding this. And I think it's not just a good thing for her to say. I think it's a good thing for herself to not carry that burden. So I think it is possible. I do understand in a sense there is a logical incoherence to it, but I think it is possible to separate the state from the individual, and in that way say, I don't want to extract something from you personally in order that somehow I'm going to forgive you. I don't carry the debt that you owe me in my heart and in my head anymore. The state is entitled to do whatever it does.
But also, it means that she can be at peace. So she can be at peace with herself without, because obviously, as we know, if you harbour anger, it can make you very ill. So the best thing you can do is try and find some sort of peace and solace. But that doesn't mean that he's absolved of punishment. That's a whole different kettle of fish. And I respect the fact that in Utah there's the potential of the death penalty, which, you know, I'm not, you know, yes, you know, I'm in favour of that anyway. Not specifically for this person, but just in general. Yes. I want to ask you, Graham, she has forgiven him. I think it's empowering her because it means that, obviously, I think the person who would do such a heinous thing would want her to feel upset and angry, and that would give them some sort of sense of satisfaction.
Yes, I think it does empower her, and I think you have to make a distinction between this and reconciliation. She's not saying we're going to be best friends. You know, let's suppose you don't get the death penalty and you're out of prison. You know, we're going to be mates and have coffee together. She's not reconciled to him. I don't think she's claiming to do that. I think she's, you know, perhaps imperfectly, but connecting with an amazing idea that Jesus forgives those who are currently crucifying him because they don't understand what they're doing. And I think she's trying to connect that with her own experience. And I think it is both a good thing to do, but also a releasing thing for her personally. I don't think she's doing it for therapeutic reasons, but I think it does have a therapeutic value as well.
And of course, she is a very, very religious individual. Jack, I wonder, is this sort of forgiveness exclusively religious? Is it's of course an incredibly Christian thing. It's what Jesus did in the Bible. If someone doesn't hold a faith, are they able to do the same thing? Is it sort of meditation? Is there a secular equivalent?
So I think certainly Christianity is the world leader in terms of religion, in terms of forgiveness. It's explicitly a Christian value to forgive, as we were taught by Jesus. However, I do agree with Nana, where I think in a secular sense, if you do hold up anger, it does poison your mind. It does make you a hateful person. And I think it can have a negative effect on your life. So I think forgiveness can also be in that secular realm. Certainly, it is an individual thing. People forgive when they are ready. Erica is a very devout Christian, as was Charlie. So because of the devoutness of her faith, I think she's been able to forgive a lot quicker than other people. However, I think certainly it is a mountain and an individual struggle for people to choose.
All right, Jack, very briefly, we've got about 20 seconds. What has this done for your organisation, Turning Point UK? Where is the positive in this?
So following the brutal assassination of Charlie, it's created 1 million Charlie Kirks across the world. We've had thousands of people inquire to get involved with us, and certainly we're pushing the mantra such bullets won't silence us. We won't be bullied out of pushing our perspective and standing up for freedom of speech and family values.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Well, much more coming up on today's programme, and do get involved, gbnews.com/your say. But in the meantime, NATO has banned a list of offensive words, including airmen, in a push for gender-inclusive language. So has NATO gone woco?
All of that and more still to come. You're a GB News, Britain's news channel, but if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, it's a mixed picture out there across Europe. Rain and thunderstorms for some, but even still, we've got some warm sunshine out there. So showery outbreaks of rain affecting Madeira, but across much of Portugal and Spain, fine, dry and settled. But there is this area of low pressure, and that's going to bring showers, perhaps even thunderstorms, especially across the Alps. Best of the sunshine across Greece, feeling warm here. And that's a similar picture as we go through the week. Sunny spells and highs of up to 27 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 12:49. Now, NATO's latest move has raised more than a few eyebrows.
Yes, instead of focusing on military might of the world's most supreme alliance, it instead is tackling language, banning terms like airmen and servicemen in favour of gender-neutral alternatives.
Supporters say that it's about inclusivity, but critics call it a farce when Russia looms large.
Well, joining now to discuss this with us is intersectional feminist and human rights activist Steph Richards. Steph, just going through some of these, NATO have been told not to say my guys. Instead of guys, it should be team. No wives, it's now spouses. Manning should be staffing. Mankind should be humanity. And serviceman should be service member. I mean, really, is this going to help anyone at all? Is anyone genuinely, is the life of anyone going to be improved by trying to police what people say?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciate that you
platform, an old trans woman like myself. Ultimately, this is around a policy that's come out from NATO, which is called the Women's Peace and Security Policy. And this is about making the various forces across the world more inclusive. We do have to remember that a large portion of our armed forces these days are made up of women. And when you suddenly call them air men, then they're obviously not going to be too happy.
Does any woman in this country actually mind being called guys? I mean, if you say, hey, guys, does any woman actually take offence at that?
No, not at all. I don't.
Well, at the end of the day, that's up to them whether they do or not. Ultimately, I think women should be recognised for who they are. And this could be seen by, I appreciate that, the Telegraph brought this out, I think, this morning. But ultimately, perhaps I would argue that they perhaps are trying to reinforce the patriarchy. Women make a huge contribution to various forces across the world, and to be recognised as such, I think, is really, really important.
OK, but do you know that the word mankind actually comes from Middle English mankinde, which is actually an alteration of the Old English word mankien, which means human race or people. So it is already a gender-neutral term. And this is the problem with this. Human is actually Latin. It comes from Latin, the word homo, which means man or person, which comes from the description of us as a people. So what I believe we're seeing is a dissection of language in the most clinical form, looking for offence without the understanding of where or what these words actually mean.
I don't think it's about offence. I think it's about recognition of women's contributions to society.
But as I've just explained where the word comes from, does that not change your perspective?
Ultimately, we use titles like airman when that is basically defining, if they're a woman, defining them as a man, and they may take offence at that. And I think what the NATO are trying to do is to come up with inclusive language, as I mentioned, within the women's peace and security agenda.
Wouldn't it be a little bit more important for NATO to be looking at the Russian threat? They've just been sending jets over some of those Baltic countries. I mean, surely we've got bigger priorities here.
All right, Steph, listen, we are running out of time.
I don't... it's not for me to come up with what NATO's agenda is. You have to remember that the UK is quite right-wing in a number of areas in comparison to perhaps some other countries more advanced.
Steph, listen, apologies, we do have to leave it there, but we do appreciate that. And thank you so much for coming on and giving us your perspective. Of course, NATO have...
Yeah, NATO have been approached for comment about this story. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more to come, but after the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, today got off to a bit of a fresh start, but there was also plenty of sunshine this morning, and that's the theme that we're going to take into the afternoon as well, with high pressure firmly in control. It was this high pressure that led to clear skies and light winds overnight, allowing temperatures to take a bit of a drop, and it's that same weather setup we have through the afternoon, so a largely fine picture for many of us. Lots of sunshine, especially across England and Wales. A little bit cloudier with a few showery bursts perhaps across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. The showers most frequent towards the northeast. Now, it is a bit fresh out there at the moment, but in the sunshine, especially across England and Wales, should feel relatively warm. Temperatures getting into mid to high teens Celsius. Generally, that is a little bit below average for the time of year. Through the end of the day, not a huge amount changes, so the Northern Isles still seeing some fairly frequent outbreaks of showery rain. A few showers skirting some coastal parts of Scotland, and maybe one or two showers showers around coastal parts of Northern Ireland too. Most places, though, staying largely dry. You can't rule out 1 or 2 showers feeding into northwest Wales, but again, most areas having a dry end to the day and some late sunshine as well breaking through. Then as we go overnight, a few showers continuing here and there, mainly towards the far northeast of Scotland, perhaps the far southeast of England seeing a few showers, and the winds picking up here as well. Elsewhere, most places having another dry, clear and calm night. So once more, I'm expecting temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Some rural spots could see a touch of frost, especially in the north, and there may be the odd pocket of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning, but this will quickly clear because once the sun comes up, that will burn any mist and fog away, and then we're set to have another largely fine day for many, the exception being across parts of the east-southeast of England, where the winds will be strengthening and there will be some showery bursts pushing their way in. Temperatures, well, similar to today, so a bit below average.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed boiler.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
What do you think is the origin of this palace not being loved by the royal family as a place to live?
Well, you see, it's a little bit like an Edwardian hotel in Brighton. It's all long corridors and rooms off them. It's not very friendly as a place, you know. So the Queen and Prince Philip occupied the rooms along the Constitution Hill side. She had half of them and he had the other half. And if ever they came out into a corridor, you know, so it's just not very friendly. And of course, the other thing is that the gardens are now terribly overlooked by the Hilton and other big buildings, whereas the King living at Clarence House, he has a very nice garden there and it's not overlooked at all. I mean, I have seen Prince Philip's rooms because I worked with his office a lot and I did a book about his mother, so I was there quite often. I haven't seen the Queen's rooms, but I'd love to see them.
Yes. And at the beginning of Queen Elizabeth II's reign, the palace was not open to the public at all, was it?
No, it wasn't. And actually, she didn't want to go and live there either. She was living in Clarence House, but Churchill said that it's sovereign's residence and she had to move in. He forced her to move in. That was quite tricky because the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret were still living there at the beginning. And then they moved into Clarence House a little while later, somewhat before the coronation. The only reason that the palace was open as a public tourist attraction was to make money to pay for the fire damage of 1992 at Windsor Castle. And that was so successful that the opening has gone on ever since, and it raises money for the Royal Collection Trust in order to look after all the treasures which are held by the sovereign for the nation.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Monday, the 22nd of September. I'm Nana Acquia.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
Nigel Farage has vowed to scrap the main route that migrants take to gain British citizenship, making recent arrivals apply for new visas if they want to stay. Could this tough new test save taxpayers money?
Yes, Nigel Farage is on the policy warpath again this morning, promising to scrap indefinite leave to remain. But what would such a policy do to the care sector? Find out more with me very soon.
as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the State of Palestine.
Sir Keir's Gaza gamble. Yes, the terror group Hamas has declared victory as this afternoon the government officially recognises a state of Palestine at the United Nations in New York. The question is, has Britain rewarded terrorism?
Nothing beats a Gatwick holiday. Britain's second largest airport has been cleared for takeoff as the government gives the green light for a second runway. It could see up to 100,000 more flights take off each year.
His party? Her party? Whose party? Zara Sultana has said she's determined to reconcile with Jeremy Corbyn as the bitter row at the heart of the left threatens to destroy your party before it even launches.
Cyclists in the City of London could soon face tougher penalties for bad behaviour as police and the corporation explore new powers to target repeat offenders.
Well, it's David Lammy who's off at the UN today, this afternoon, where he'll be formally sort of proposing this recognition of Britain in front of that forum of the world. And it's interesting because he's not the Foreign Secretary anymore.
No, why is it him? I mean, frankly, I think he's a disaster of some of the things he's said and done, especially the bit about how you can grow a cervix, which I thought was most entertaining. We actually played that clip yesterday.
Right.
Because Ed Davey then repeated his nonsense about women having penises and things like that, evidently. And anyway, let's not go into that. I don't get why David Lammy's going. He's no longer the Foreign Secretary.
No.
Perhaps it's because he was the one that initially put the negotiations.
I wonder if this was part of some agreement that that the then Foreign Secretary had with the Prime Minister, because he was demoted in that big reshuffle, but he got the consolation title of Deputy Prime Minister, which is sort of a nothing title. It doesn't have any powers that go with it.
Well, perhaps Yvette Cooper didn't want to put her name to it.
Well, I wonder if David Lammy was really looking forward to this, wanted this to be sort of his moment on the world stage, and would only accept this demotion if he was continually allowed to do this one last thing.
But it puts the UK in an interesting position because we're supposed to be allies of Israel, and acknowledging it's a Palestinian state without any parameters, without knowing where the borders are, without knowing who would run it, without having the infrastructure in place, I think is a virtue signal.
Yeah, it's hard to see actually what concrete steps it actually does beyond just sort of sitting in the club, having the map on Wikipedia of which states recognise Palestine. That's the only thing that's really changed, hasn't it? Well, that and so much more to come today. We'll also be dissecting the Reform Party's new visa announcement, a crackdown on legal migration. But what will it mean for the wider economy, and how much money could it really save? We'll be getting all of that after your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. The top story this lunchtime. Reform UK says it would abolish indefinite leave to remain if it wins the next election, forcing migrants with settled status to reapply for visas every 5 years. The party says only British citizens would get access to welfare under the plan, which Reform claim could save £230 billion, though experts have disputed that figure. Labour has also dismissed the policy as a gimmick. Critics are warning it risks breaching post-Brexit agreements and could harm businesses. But Reform argues the changes would end what it calls an era of cheap foreign labour and lead to mass deportations. Nigel Farage said earlier today that too many migrants don't work and that taxpayers are being hammered for it.
We are not the world's food bank. It is not for us to provide welfare for people coming in from all over the world. The 800,000 people that will get indefinite leave to remain unless this policy is revoked tend to be young, tend to be low-skilled. They are going to be a huge burden on the state.
Also this lunchtime, the UK has formally recognised a Palestinian state in a historic shift backed by Canada, Australia and Portugal. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has blasted the move as a reward for terrorism, while families of hostages in Gaza call it a betrayal. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper says she has now warned Israel not to annex parts of the West Bank in response. She'll join France and other nations at the UN in New York today, where Palestinian statehood is set to dominate the talks. Cooper says Britain has a moral duty to revive the hope of a two-state solution. Well, we also heard from Middle East Minister Hamish Faulkner earlier. He rejected the suggestion that the recognition of Palestine was motivated by any internal Labour politics.
We need to hold open the hope of two states living side by side, two communities living side by side in the Middle East. I'm the MP for Lincoln, and I know that people right across Lincoln and the country are concerned by the violence in Gaza. They are concerned by the fact that hostages still haven't been released, and they're concerned by the escalation of violence, and the Bush government is taking action to try and chart an alternative path towards peace for two people.
In the US, Donald Trump has hailed Charlie Kirk as a great American hero at a memorial service in Arizona overnight. Tens of thousands packed into State Farm Stadium, where the vice president and top Trump officials praised the activist's legacy. Kirk, who founded Turning Point USA at the age of just 18, was shot dead when debating students in Utah earlier this month. His wife Erica gave an emotional speech saying she forgave her husband's alleged killer.
Young man, I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do.
Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander has given the green light for a £2.2 billion second runway at Gatwick Airport. The privately funded project would bring the northern runway into full use, allowing up to 70,000 more flights each year and doubling passenger numbers to 80 million. The Chancellor says it will deliver thousands of jobs and billions in investment. She says it's part of the plan to get Britain building again. But the Green Party has branded the move a disaster for the climate. Campaigners are also warning of more noise, traffic and pollution. Gatwick, already Europe's busiest single runway airport, hopes planes could be taking off from the new strip before the next general election. Flight disruption across Europe is set to continue today after a cyber attack knocked out airline check-in and boarding systems. Brussels Airport has asked airlines to cancel nearly half of flights, around 140 departures. Meanwhile, Heathrow says most flights are still running, though airlines are still boarding manually with no end in sight to the outage. And police are appealing for help to identify 18 more people after violence at the Unite the Kingdom march in London. Hundreds of thousands joined the rally led by Tommy Robinson on the 13th of September, which he called the biggest freedom of speech event in British history. Around 5,000 counter-protesters also gathered, with clashes breaking out on Whitehall and Trafalgar Square. 24 arrests were made, 26 police officers assaulted, with bottles, flares and projectiles thrown. The Met has released 16 new images urging people nationwide to come forward with information. That's the news this lunchtime. I'll be back with you very shortly. Now, though, it's over to Tom and Nana.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 10 minutes past 1. Now, the leader of the Reform Party, Nigel Farage, announced plans to abolish leave to remain, indefinite leave to remain. Earlier today, the Reform leader was speaking to our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, explaining the decision.
Nearly 1 million people over the course of the next few years will qualify for indefinite leave to remain. They're part of the Boris wave shortly after he became Prime Minister. Once they get that status, they can bring dependents. Once they get that status, they can access fully all the welfare benefits in this country. Already, 1 in 6 on universal credit are foreign-born people.
Reform UK also announced that under their plans, welfare will be for UK citizens only, and teased that the salary threshold for visas will rise substantially.
Well, let's get the lowdown with our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who, of course, was there and interviewed Nigel Farage as well. Olivia, what are the big takeaways?
So Nigel Farage wanted this press conference to be about the Boris wave, as he calls it. Those are people, mainly not from the EU, who came into Britain after Brexit happened in late 2020, early 2021, who came under what Boris called skilled visas. Now, what Nigel Farage is saying is that actually most of those migrants are working quite low-skilled jobs, and what he claims, although there isn't yet a government figure to back this up, is that 50% of migrants who will be granted a definite leave to remain in the next few years, those who came over in late 2021, over half of those people are dependents of skilled workers who do not work and perhaps will never work. So what he is saying is that he wants to abolish that indefinite leave to remain altogether. The problem, of course, is that there are some sectors where there are just shortages, where we have to, at the moment, import foreign workers because British workers either are unable because they're not trained properly or unwilling to do those jobs. And in, for example, the care sector, where care workers say there is a real crisis in recruiting and retaining care workers, lots of the workers who come here from abroad are women. They bring their families over here. And the problem for Nigel Farage, as I see it, is that if you stop those workers coming over here with their families, then will you be able to fill those jobs in the care sector? What he says is that British people aren't willing to do those jobs because the market has been flooded by cheap labour, and if you are able to cut out that cheap labour, then the average wage for those jobs will go up. That is his hope, but at the moment what he wants to talk about is abolishing indefinite leave to remain altogether, and polling shows that it would be quite a popular policy. Nigel Farage has made a bit of a thing of these Monday press conferences where he announces some enormous radical policy and usually manages to steal the limelight away from Keir Starmer, who today wanted to be talking about the UK recognising Palestine as a state. So this is another example of Nigel Farage trying to take control of the narrative. He's talked about how reform would tackle illegal migration. Now he's talking about how they would tackle legal migration to the UK.
All right, Olivia Utley, thank you very much. She's GB News' political correspondent.
Well, shall we get some reaction from the Conservative Party now on this latest announcement? Delighted to be joined by the former Conservative MP, Heather Wheeler. Heather, it seems that Nigel Farage is really going for the last sort of 4 or 5 years of Conservative government. The migration taps were turned on in the wake of the pandemic. Lots and lots of people came over, and Nigel Farage is calling it the Boris wave.
Yes, he's great at getting a headline, isn't he? Let's move on to the facts, though, shall we? So we have already changed that you cannot now bring in dependents, particularly if you're at university or something like that. So we know that that's now dissipating and going. We also know that we tried to change the threshold, the cash threshold for jobs to £36,000 per year, so medium salaries. And we couldn't get that through Parliament because of one thing and another. 29,000 is the limit.
Heather, why couldn't you get that through Parliament? You had a majority of 80 MPs. The Conservatives were elected on their largest majority since Margaret Thatcher, and you couldn't get that through Parliament.
Yeah, we have this wonderful thing called the second chamber, the House of Lords, and we do not have a majority in the House of Lords. So let's get back to what else is going on. The issue of, particularly on care homes and things like that, it is absolutely fascinating. As MPs, we all go around, all our old ex-MPs go around our old nursing homes and what have you. And I would be absolutely struck by the nursing homes that have completely local people working in them and other nursing homes that have incredibly few local people working in them. And I think we need to drill down as to why that was happening.
Well, in order to counter that problem, he did come out with the ASSV visa, so the adults, the skills shortage visa. So what that would encompass would be those in areas where there's a shortage, there'd be special visas made for those people. But as you also pointed out, in the care sector, there are some care homes with lots of local people and some with people from abroad. So maybe it could be something to do with income, but he's already solved that problem, hasn't he, with the ASSV?
Again, any local MP would always have constituents getting hold of them. I had a wonderful gentleman that came from Guatemala who was a high-class chef, but actually getting into the country and having a salary of potentially more than 36,000 as a first-time entrant was very difficult. His wife was English. and they'd been together 7 years, and he'd worked all over Europe, and then obviously came back to England. So there are real individual issues that you'd have to drill down to. It's great having broad brushstrokes. We all love that. But actually, governing is difficult.
OK, well, one of the things they did say was that obviously these are plans, but when they get into government, they'll have a look and see where the land lies. I think that is fair. Most parties do that. The Labour Party did it, the Conservative parties did it as well.
Just very briefly before we let you go, Heather, do you sort of acknowledge this sense that sort of people time and time again have elected parties of government to sort of think that they're going to do things, and they seem just incompetent when they get in? They've got big majorities, but they propose things that then they can't. They blame the courts, they blame quangos, they blame the previous government, they blame the House of Lords. It feels like in decades past, we didn't have so many excuse-making politicians.
Well, I remember Tony Blair saying he had the scars of the civil service stopping him doing things on his own back. So you're absolutely right. It's been going on for 20 plus years, and that's not an excuse to say we can't change things. We did change things about university. We did change things about the salary schedule. So there are plans there that the Labour group can bring in and absolutely make sure that they apply them right the way across the board, which is why this is a great broad brushstroke, but actual details, please.
OK, well, listen, one thing we can say the Conservatives did change was mass migration. We can say that, and that's definitely on your shoulders as a government. Thank you very much, Heather. Really good to talk to you. That's Heather Wheeler, a former Conservative MP.
Well, Keir Starmer, in other news, continues to face a backlash after formally recognising Palestine as an independent state.
In the face of the growing horror in the Middle East, we are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state.
So many pauses. Hamas has declared victory, describing the move as justice of our cause, whilst the Prime Minister said this move doesn't reward the terrorist organisation and will help ostracise Hamas. I'm not seeing it. Hamas are celebrating. They are congratulating and thanking Keir Starmer for this, and they are acting as though they have been rewarded for their terrorism.
Do you think the Prime Minister would have done this if he wasn't losing a lot of voters to people like Jeremy Corbyn, your party, the Greens, these sort of areas? If he hadn't lost seats to the Gaza independents at the general election, do you think this is all about his voter base and not really about principle?
He's clutching at straws. He's lost voters from all angles, and this is a potential large voice. And I think what he's saying is a virtue signal because he has no control over any of that jurisdiction, so his words mean nothing.
Of course, we did used to have control over the jurisdiction.
But we don't anymore.
No, we gave it to the UN in 1948.
We're good at giving things away, aren't we?
We're very good at it. I do believe we can speak to an Israeli embassy spokesperson now, Alex Gandler. Alex, thanks indeed for joining us. The Prime Minister says that this is necessary to keep the option of a two-state solution alive. Is it?
First of all, shalom. Well, I don't think this move was granted in order for a two-state solution to stay alive. This timing of making this move, especially tonight on Erev Rosh Hashanah, the day of the Jewish New Year's, is not warranted at all. We are still grieving the October 7th attack 2 years on. We're still fighting Hamas and trying to destroy it in order to keep the two-state solution alive or any meaningful conversation between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Unilateral moves or one-sided moves by any government are not warranted and are not helping the situation.
There did seem to be genuine fears from a lot of people who do support a two-state solution, Israeli opposition politicians, people in the West as well, that the Netanyahu government has been moving further and further away from that position. Even the ambassador here in London has said that she can't see a two-state solution actually happening now. I mean, what is Israeli policy on whether there should or should not be a two-state solution?
Well, what are we talking about at the moment? Who is the two-state solution? Who's the second state we're talking about? Is this Gaza, who is run by Hamas, or the Palestinian Authority in Judea and Samaria and the Palestinian territories running a corrupt government? Who should we be discussing this second state? The Palestinian people do need to have a bit of more control over what they do. You need to not only think of them as victims, but also people with agency. And in order to do that, you need to allow them to make their choices. Unfortunately, their last choice, October 7th, wasn't very conducive to helping any peace project in the future. That is why we also are looking at this as something that pokes Israel in the eye, still in our grieving process, not far from the second anniversary of this horrible massacre. We have countries declaring a Palestinian state, relinquishing any obligation they have to the state of Israel, and also relinquishing their say in the matter when we do have a conversation about a second state.
All right, listen, we're running out of time. Very briefly, what impact has Keir Starmer announcing this recognition of the Palestinian state had on those in Israel?
Well, on the ground, it's pseudo-symbolic recognition. We don't really see anything happening on the ground truly for Israelis or Palestinians. But for Israelis, you know, it touched upon a very deep point. Especially today, if you have Jewish friends or neighbors, you can wish them Rosh Hashanah, Shana Tova, or Happy New Year, because today is the day of the Jewish New Year. And doing it in such a timing, you know, it's a bit sour for us to understand that we have friends who are doing such things.
All right, Alex Gandler, thank you very much. He's an Israeli embassy spokesperson.
Yeah, interesting timing, isn't it?
Yeah, do you think he even knew the timing?
Well, I mean, his wife's Jewish, Keir Starmer.
I don't know whether he might. I don't know.
Well, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now, but still plenty of time for you to become our biggest winner to date. Yes, it's all worth over £104,000. Here's how to win.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Indeed. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
His party? Her party? Whose party? Woo! Yes, Zara Sultana has said she's determined to reconcile with Jeremy Corbyn after their bitter and very public row.
All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. That's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain. In a dramatic U-turn, former Labour MP Zara Sultana has declared that she is ready to reconcile with former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh, this is a mess, isn't it? Just days after accusing Corbyn of overseeing a sexist boys' club with the Gaza Independents and hiring defamation lawyers, it now appears that all may have been forgiven. But where can the party possibly go after such a rocky start? Let's not forget, it hasn't even launched yet.
Well, joining us now is former Green Party Deputy Leader Shahara Ali. I mean, this is an absolute mess, isn't it? They don't have a name for the party, but then it became your party. Then they were not sure about it, and then they were. Jeremy Corbyn didn't know that the party had been that he was in the party because she announced it without him agreeing, apparently. And then your party, and then this is disastrous, isn't it?
Yes, omni-shambles is the word that springs to mind. They've done so much wrong, and if there's one lesson of UK politics going back decades, the electorate will not vote for disunified, fractured parties. And the left already has a problem just in terms of its identity of being too factionalist. And to have a new movement which is supposedly unified around opposition potentially to Sir Keir Starmer and the new left, so to speak, might say a little bit more about the Greens in a minute, to have such a public falling out is disastrous. They had a lot of momentum in terms of the initial sign-up, and to completely screw up their membership recruitment scheme and potentially do so illegally is a very, very bad start, and it's going to take some while for them to recover from this.
Now, what is behind these splits? Because it seems very clear that there is sort of there's a Jeremy Corbyn plus 4 Gaza Independence faction, and then a Zara Sultana faction, and there are some social issues that they seem to disagree with each other on profoundly.
Well, the bottom line, actually, and you see this in all political parties, is egotism and ambition. So clearly, it feels like Zara Sultana has ambition potentially to be the leader of that political party or somewhere near the top. And that's also true potentially of the independent MPs. And the problem is that probably this movement will be nowhere without Corbyn. There is a lot deep emotional attachment to him, and his longevity has a lot to be said for it. So they cannot possibly, they've got political problems as it is internally when they finally get their conference up and running, we're told in November. They've got quite a lot of nuts to have to crack just in terms of their policy platform. The main one I would suggest is around their very overt support for Gaza, Palestine, good though that might be on the face of it. The problem they've got is that how does that actually impact the bread and butter issues of the electorate in the UK? So if they are obsessively pursuing international policy to the exclusion of domestic policies, that's one problem. And additionally, if they are trying to appeal to the Muslim vote, the Muslim bloc vote, I would say, and I think there's a democratic problem in terms of the deficit in trying to appeal in a very cynical way, just the Muslim vote, they're going to have to crack the nut is how can they combine the LGB, there's a false teaming, of course, TQ, progressive wing of the party, with a so-called, even Adnan Hussein has referred to it as social conservatism. Well, guess what? If your Islam, if your practice of Muslim tells you that you're against same-sex marriage, for example, if you seek not to have any kind of homosexual education at an age-appropriate point in the schools, you are going to be clashing with the LG so-called false team TQ as part of the left. And that's going to be a major problem for them already as it is.
I think that is a big problem. Shahra Ali, thank you very much. As a former Green Party deputy leader. Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? It's all these sort of side groups all wanting to be part of one sort of left wing. But unfortunately, it is very compartmentalised and they all have different values. So I don't see any way they can reconcile. And just for example, say, Jeremy Corbyn is quite old. So if he was no longer a member of that party, or heaven forbid, you know, Sarah Sultana was now the leader, then the factions that followed Jeremy would not follow her.
Yes, I mean, just looking at the constituencies, Zara Sultana represents one of the most socially liberal, university-based constituencies in the country. These Gaza independents were elected in areas where there were... I mean, the votes of Gaza independents were in areas where people were protesting teachers teaching kids that they can have two mums or two dads. I mean, they're just completely different worldviews.
It's not going to work. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Nothing beats a Gatwick holiday. Yes, Britain's second largest airport has been cleared for takeoff as the government gives the green light for a second runway. All that and more after your latest news headlines with Sam.
Very good afternoon to you. The top story this lunchtime. Reform UK says it will scrap indefinite leave to remain if it wins the next election, forcing migrants to reapply for visas every 5 years. Labour has branded it a gimmick that risks harming businesses and breaking post-Brexit deals. But Nigel Farage claims it could save £230 billion.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
Britain's recognition of a Palestinian state is set to dominate the UN summit in New York today. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper says the move is about reviving the hope of peace, but Israel has condemned it as a reward for terrorism. In the US, tens of thousands gathered to honour activist Charlie Kirk. Donald Trump hailed him as a martyr for America's freedom, while Kirk's widow made headlines by forgiving her husband's alleged killer. Gatwick Airport has been given the green light for a £2.2 billion second runway, with ministers calling it a no-brainer for growth. The project could see more than 100,000 extra flights each year and push passenger numbers to 80 million. And police are appealing for help to identify 18 more people after violence at the Unite the Kingdom march in London. Officers say 26 police were assaulted as bottles and flares were thrown during clashes with counter-protesters. That's the news this lunchtime. I'll be back with more at 2.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, today got off to a bit of a fresh start, but there was also plenty of sunshine this morning, and that's the theme that we're going to take into the afternoon as well, with high pressure firmly in control. It was this high pressure that led to clear skies and light winds overnight, allowing temperatures to take a bit of a drop, and it's that same weather setup we have through the afternoon, so a largely fine picture for many of us. Lots of sunshine, especially across England and Wales. A little bit cloudier with a few showery bursts perhaps across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. The showers most frequent towards the northeast. Now, it is a bit fresh out there at the moment, but in the sunshine, especially across England and Wales, should feel relatively warm. Temperatures getting into mid to high teens Celsius. Generally, that is a little bit below average for the time of year. Through the end of the day, not a huge amount changes, so the Northern Isles still seeing some fairly frequent outbreaks of showery rain. A few showers skirting some coastal parts of Scotland, and maybe one or two showers around coastal parts of Northern Ireland too. Most places, though, staying largely dry. You can't rule out one or two showers feeding into northwest Wales, but again, most areas having a dry end to the day and some late sunshine as well breaking through. Then as we go overnight, a few showers continuing here and there, mainly towards the far northeast of Scotland, perhaps the far southeast of England seeing a few showers, and the winds picking up here as well. Elsewhere, most places having another dry, clear and calm night. So once more, I'm expecting temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Some rural spots could see a touch of frost, especially in the north, and there may be the odd pocket of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning, but this will quickly clear because once the sun comes up, that will burn any mist and fog away, and then we're set to have another largely fine day for many, the exception being across parts of the east-southeast of England, where the winds will be strengthening and there will be some showery bursts pushing their way in. Temperatures, well, similar to today, so a bit below average.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. A broken down vehicle is restricting the A720 eastbound after Calder Junction. Motorists should proceed with caution. An accident on the M25 clockwise between junctions 9 and 10 is causing minor delays. A vehicle fire on the A1M northbound in Hertfordshire between junctions 4 and 5 has closed 2 out of 3 lanes. In Surrey, a road traffic collision on the M25 clockwise between junctions 9 and 10 has closed 1 lane, causing about 10 minutes of delay. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services are disrupted between Crewe and Stafford, and Great Western Railway has no service between Great Malvern and Moreton in Marsh. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 37 minutes past 1. Now, Britain's second largest airport, Gatwick, is gearing up for a £2.2 billion transformation with its second runway plan.
The project promises thousands of new jobs and up to 100,000 extra flights a year.
Yes, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, she's in need of some growth and some jobs, quite frankly. Well, she says it's proof that the government is backing builders, not blockers, and it's going to give the economy a lift.
Well, joining us now from global travel consultant, and advisor, Anita Mendirata, and senior political advisor at Green Alliance, Johan Beckford. Right, let's start with you, Anita. This is supposedly great news, but it's going to take years and years and years. And I hear there is already a second runway at Gatwick anyway. So what is the big deal?
Nana and Tom, thank you very much for having me. I think what's really important about this is not a new runway. It's a repositioning of the existing runway, which is currently used for taxiing and for backup. So it's not like Heathrow, where it's an entire new runway being developed. What's also very important about this is that it is critical in terms of the growth and the development and the competitiveness of the UK. The concerns that have been raised are completely natural. It happens all the time, especially with significant infrastructure development. But this is vital if we, as the people of the UK, are going to see the UK continue to grow for the benefit of the people of the UK, especially with aviation being vital when it comes to not only travel, but especially trade.
Well, let's throw that over to Johan. Johan, I mean, looking at the competitors of the United Kingdom, France has a hub airport called Charles de Gaulle. It's got 4 runways. I mean, if you look at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, that's got 6 runways. Poland's building a new European massive mega airport hub. So's Berlin. I mean, without a second runway at Gatwick, surely we're falling behind.
Well, I really challenge that assumption, as well as the underlying numbers on the kind of growth impact that this will have. I mean, we've seen, for example, business travellers, which is fundamental to the sort of sums behind the growth assumptions that have been made, has fallen quite significantly in the last few years. 22% of travellers in 2010 were business travellers, but actually in 2023, that was only 14%. I think we've all lived through the pandemic and realised that we can do business in different ways. So I think fundamentally the government should instead be investing in the cleaner and greener approaches that will be supporting our economy and unlocking the nations and regions of the UK to better connect us domestically so that we can have those economic benefits across the country.
So are you in favour then of an extra or the extension of the current second runway so that it can meet requirements at Gatwick? Are you in favour of that then, Johan?
No, I don't think it's necessary. We've seen that there's very significant numbers of passengers travelling in and out of Gatwick at the moment, and the Climate Change Committee have already shown us that the biggest tool that we have to decarbonise our aviation system in the next few years is around just slowing the rate of growth that is going to be coming forward.
Johan, you're just talking about slowing the rate of growth. Our growth is already on the floor. I'm talking about a national level as well as at an airport level. I mean, surely we should be accelerating our rate of growth in every industry. People are hungry in this country. People are cold in this country. We need investment. We need jobs. We need growth. Frankly, we need money.
Well, frankly, again, what I would say is about the rate of growth in passenger numbers. We know that the number of passengers are going to be going up in years to come. But actually, when you look at the passengers that are travelling at the moment, we know that 50% of Brits don't currently fly in a given year. And overwhelmingly, those are from the poorer sections of society that are less likely to fly. So actually, this is benefiting wealthier, frequent flyers, and it actually isn't spreading the kind of economic activity around.
Hang on. You're saying that 50% of people don't fly, so let's not build more runways. I mean, surely the opposite is true. If we built more runways, there might be more opportunities for the people who don't fly to fly. But let's throw this over to Anita.
Anita, what do you think?
Thank you very much. I mean, Johan makes some very interesting points, and I want to go back to 2 of them. Firstly, exactly as you're saying, holding back on growth is very dangerous. What's important to recognize in aviation, and that's airlines and airports, is the diversification and the usage of the networks. So it's not Gatwick on its own representing the UK. It operates within a national network, which is really critical. And as we've seen, Gatwick is carrying very much the low-cost carriers, leisure, and going into Europe and back and forth airlines. So naturally, that's going to cause a reduction in the amount of business travel, which is more focused very much on looking at Heathrow, for instance. So what he's saying is correct. Gatwick has gone down, but for a very good strategic reason, because low-cost leisure carrier is going through Gatwick. We cannot forget as well is the importance of the belly of the aircraft. So there might be a movement in terms of a drop in leisure travel at one airport, but it's still very much important to cargo. And that is fundamentally important. By bringing in utilization of a second runway that, again, already exists, we're repositioning it and bringing the infrastructure back online. It's not causing major disruption to the entire airport system. By bringing that back online, we'll be able to utilize one runway for local and regional flights and the other for long haul. So coordinating increasing capacity by the increase of the movement of the aircraft. And again, this is not done in isolation. This is Gatwick alongside the entire UK aviation network. So it's a very smart approach. And that's why for UK competitiveness, the entire network needs to be uplifted. But it needs to be done in a way that, importantly, and to Johan's point, makes it very clear the benefits for the people who aren't even traveling. And this is where the pushback from some of the those that are looking at why are we actually doing this is natural. There are concerns about environmental impact, about transport infrastructure, and about consultation process, yes. But when we look at how we're evolving the airport, sustainable engineering is enormously part of that, and how we create it. So we're not using existing engineering systems in developing of the new Gatwick Airport terminal, I beg your pardon, runway 2. Secondly, the transport advancements that are going to be done on the ground will benefit local communities, as will the jobs, as will the revenues. So this is all for local community benefit as well. And that's why the case making between now and breaking ground is fundamentally important, so everyone is clear how they benefit.
All right. Well, listen, I was going to say very briefly, Johan, wouldn't you be better off supporting the notion? Because they're thinking of the environmental benefits, they're thinking about the local community, they're thinking about all the aspects to make this kind of an eco-friendly, as friendly as it can be, extension of Gatwick. And they're even using an existing runway.
Well, unfortunately, putting 100,000 additional flights per year isn't going to have any environmental benefits, because we don't have a clear pathway to decarbonise the aviation sector at the moment. We need to be focusing on scaling the future technologies that are going to be so crucial to being able to fly in decades to come. But with every additional flight that we put in the air, we are making that scaling challenge of those future technologies all the more difficult. And when it comes back to the economic arguments, I think I really would challenge this argument. We know that a lot of the wealth in the UK is concentrated in London and the southeast, and it needs to be spread around the rest of the country. So why the government is focusing particularly on Gatwick and looking at Heathrow as well. We've seen London City Airport has expanded. It really shows it's further concentrating that wealth in London and the southeast, which hopefully we can agree is not the path that it should be taking.
I think you do make a good point there, Johan. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much to Johan Beckford and Anita Menderas. Thank you so much.
Well, lots more to come on Good Afternoon Britain. And if you want to make use of one of Gatwick's runways, perhaps one of Heathrow's, Luton's, Manchester, Birmingham, Doncaster, Sheffield, well, the travel weather is coming up now.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, it's a mixed picture out there across Europe. Rain and thunderstorms for some, but even still, we've got some warm sunshine out there. So showery outbreaks of rain affecting Madeira, but across much of Portugal and Spain, fine, dry and settled. But there is this area of low pressure, and that's going to bring showers, perhaps even thunderstorms, especially across the Alps. Best of the sunshine across Greece, feeling warm here. And that's a similar picture as we go through the week. Sunny spells and highs of up to 27 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
And with a dynastic touch, George Martin's son, Giles Martin, is involved in all of this.
Yes, so he's the keeper of his father's flame, really, which is very touching.
It's very, very touching. How can it be? I mean, we've been talking about a band here that was playing before we were able to send pictures across the Atlantic. How can a band that is that old cause such excitement today?
Well, it's such a number of elements. They encapsulated so much of the early 20th century music. Fats Domino, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Tim Panally through Paul McCartney's father. He grew up hearing his father playing the piano. He had a big jazz band. They played around Liverpool. So all of that music went into the Beatles' crucible. And I find it so interesting that Decca get ribbed for turning them down. But those early sessions are not showing them at their best. And they say guitar bands are on their way out, but actually it took the Beatles to bring them back and show everybody a completely different scene, a completely different imagination of what guitar music can be. It took the Beatles 3 albums to really get into their stride, because their first 2, let's not forget, were sort of covers in a way. So there's a few of their own songs in there,
but a lot of covers.
But with Hard Day's Night, it's all their own tracks. And what can I say? The energy of them, the invention of them, when you watch Get Back, you see how much craftsmanship they put into constructing a completely unique song. That's the thing about the Beatles. Each song is so unique. There's no replication in any of their output.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Breton. Cyclists in the City of London could soon face tougher penalties for bad behaviour.
Yes, police and the corporation are now exploring new powers to target repeat offenders, from red light jumpers to pavement riders.
So while cycling numbers are booming, complaints about safety and courtesy remain firmly in the spotlight.
Yeah, lots to go at here.
Yes.
I have to declare an interest.
Why?
I am
cyclist.
I am both a cyclist and a motorist. I enjoy both. I think both driving and cycling are two of the best forms of transport because you are in control, and that is just a marvellous feeling. And yet, when I cycle in London and I'm at a red light where, say, it's just a Pelican crossing, and this is just a pedestrian crossing, there are no pedestrians there, why should I stop? Why can't I go through that red light?
Well, let me just explain. So, at a pedestrian crossing?
Yeah.
OK, well, you don't often have red lights at the pedestrian crossing anyway. So a pedestrian crossing, as in with the zebra thingy?
No, a Pelican crossing, a push-button red light crossing.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't there, because that's the rules of the road. So if some people got prioritised, oh, it's all right for you, you don't need to take any notice of that, but you can and you can. It gets very messy. So to have strict rules that everyone should follow and no one should break is the safest way, because just say something does happen, something you didn't see by accident, and then you caused an accident and you hurt someone, what insurance have you got? Have you got insurance? Do you pay road tax?
I do for my car, but not for my bike. But
So
this is the thing, when I'm driving in London, it's really annoying having cyclists around, right?
Yeah, of course
because they can whiz past you. Surely you want them to get away from you as fast as possible.
Do you know what,
Going ahead is a good thing.
I want them to have insurance, because if they do something and then just say, with the rules that they've put now in the the highway code.
Yes.
Those rules are that the pedestrian is king.
Yes.
And cyclists. So
there's a sort of hierarchy.
There's a hierarchy.
Yeah.
So cyclists are next. So even if it's your fault as a cyclist, the motorist has to prove that it's not their fault. So if you do something like that, it's on me as a motorist.
I know.
And then have to say, oh well, he did that and that. You could always lie. And I just think it's better that everyone should follow the same rules.
This is why I quite like the segregated cycle stuff, because I mean, cars find it really annoying when bikes are weaving in and out of them. And bikes don't much like it when some Chungo Flumberson in a massive car is coming up behind them.
Did you hear that? Chungo Flumberson.
It's just coming up behind them in sort of a massive car. I mean, surely the safe thing.
Say that on Ofcom. I was just joking. That might be a knock.
It's just a nonsense word.
Exactly. They won't have that. They're not that clever.
but in a massive sort of 2-ton truck, no cyclist wants that behind them as well. Surely the answer here is segregation.
Well, segregation may be, but you see in Amsterdam they handle it so well. Everyone's got their own lane, people stay in their own lane, everyone knows the rules, but everyone plays by the rules.
And the other thing...
there can't be somebody who gets an exception to the rules.
The other thing about Amsterdam is they turn off all the traffic lights at night.
Exactly. Well,
which is brilliant.
Sense. That makes sense.
Because there are a few cars on the road, and I've cycled at night in Amsterdam, and it is wonderful. The other thing is no one wears Lycra. No one wears a helmet and no one wears lycra. And it's just a normal thing for people to cycle in normal clothes. It's not a weird thing.
That's because they do it on a daily basis. It's a normal modus operandi, normal mode of transport. Whereas here we want to give ourselves a cookie for being so good and healthy that we cycled instead of taking a car or a bus or something else. I
think it'd be a lot more popular cycling if we banned lycra, first of all.
Well, stay with us. What do you think? This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Do not go anywhere. First, let's get some weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, today got off to a bit of a fresh start, but there was also plenty of sunshine this morning, and that's the theme that we're going to take into the afternoon as well, with high pressure firmly in control. It was this high pressure that led to clear skies and light winds overnight, allowing temperatures to take a bit of a drop, and it's that same weather setup we have through the afternoon, so a largely fine picture for many of us. Lots of sunshine, especially across England and Wales. A little bit cloudy, with a few showery bursts perhaps across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. The showers most frequent towards the northeast. Now, it is a bit fresh out there at the moment, but in the sunshine, especially across England and Wales, should feel relatively warm. Temperatures getting into mid to high teens Celsius. Generally, that is a little bit below average for the time of year. Through the end of the day, not a huge amount changes, so the Northern Isles still seeing some fairly frequent outbreaks of showery rain. A few showers skirting some coastal parts of Scotland, and maybe one or two showers around coastal parts of Northern Ireland too. Most places, though, staying largely dry. You can't rule out one or two showers feeding into northwest Wales, but again, most areas having a dry end to the day and some late sunshine as well breaking through. Then, as we go overnight, a few showers continuing here and there, mainly towards the far northeast of Scotland, perhaps the far southeast of England seeing a few showers, and the winds picking up here as well. Elsewhere, most places having another dry, clear and calm night. So once more, I'm expecting temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Some rural spots could see a touch of frost, especially in the north, and there may be the odd pocket of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning, but this will quickly clear because once the sun comes up, that will burn any mist and fog away, and then we're set to have another largely fine day for many, the exception being across parts of the east-southeast of England, where the winds will be strengthening and there will be some showery bursts pushing their way in. Temperatures, well, similar to today, so a bit below average.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Monday, the 22nd of September. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Acquia. Now, the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, has been dropped as a patron to the Children's Hospice after emails emerged between her and paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein.
Prince Andrew's wife pledged never to contact Epstein again, but after it emerged that she contacted him secretly just a few weeks later, describing him as a supreme friend, the charity has cut ties. More details shortly.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
Yes, in a migration policy blitz, Nigel Farage vowed to scrap the main route migrants take to gain British citizenship, making recent arrivals apply for new visas, if they want to stay, that is. Could this tough new test save taxpayers' money?
As Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the state of Palestine.
Sir Keir Starmer's Gaza gamble. Terror group Hamas declare victory as this afternoon the government officially recognises a state of Palestine at the United Nations as Britain rewarded terrorism.
Elsewhere, the Lib Dems are warning of a £300 stealth tax in the budget and announcing a smartphone curb plans for children themselves. Yes, it's day 3 of the Lib Dem party conference, and we're there live, with or without a marching band.
That's right, I'm here in Bournemouth at the Lib Dem conference where they've announced cigarette-style health bans on TikTok videos, and they're refusing to rule out a coalition with the Labour Party as they struggle to get attention back from Reform UK.
Cyclists may face tougher penalties for traffic offences like running red lights under new government proposals. But is it time to shift cycling laws into a higher gear? You've been given your views, and we'll bring some of those later on.
Well, a busy afternoon of news. Not only policy from Reform, a conference from the Lib Dems, David Lammy in New York. I mean, it's all happening.
Yes, but it is. But you've been giving us your views on cyclists, which we found most entertaining. Leslie says all cyclists should be paying road tax and have insurance, just like car drivers. Not road tax licence or insurance. Huge fines and banning, just like we motorists have to suffer from. I kind of agree with that.
Well, Bobby says our council has spent millions on cycle lanes, yet the majority of cyclists choose not to use them. That's very annoying.
And then Tress says, Tom, stop it. That means cyclists will be more Wild West than now. It's true. I think, honestly, some of the cyclists, I just, I'm always careful on the road because I know these people are much more, they're not covered, they're not protected like you are in a car. Some of the behaviours, I had somebody cycle and then suddenly shimmy across the zebra crossing, and I'm like, hold on a minute. You were on the road a minute ago, now you're on... They went, oh, sorry. I just thought, I almost ran you over.
Yeah, I think proper infrastructure. Do you know the RAC? was founded by cyclists.
Oh, really?
Because at the start of cars, when cars were sort of being introduced at the beginning of the 1900s, the interests of cyclists and motorists were completely aligned. They were all lobbying for smoother roads, for sort of new roads that are good for cycling and for cars. But then the interests diverged as cars got more powerful and more fast. But I don't think these two things need to be in conflict if we just say there's a space for the cyclists and there's a space for the cars, and they don't have to, you know, crisscross each other.
Well, I've got one more. Dublin says cyclists are a menace on the road and should be registered, identifiable and insured. Something changed when they all started wearing lycra.
They're called mammals, aren't they? Middle-aged men in lycra.
Well, send us your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say first. Your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you from the newsroom just after 2 o'clock. Well, the top story this hour, the government has blasted Nigel Farage's new immigration and welfare plans, calling them half-baked, unfunded and failing apart in real time. Reform UK has said it would scrap indefinite leave to remain and ban migrants from accessing benefits, claiming the move could save £230 billion. But Labour and the Chancellor say the numbers have no basis in reality, warning the policy risks breaking up families and harming businesses. Mr Farage insists the changes would end what he calls the era of cheap foreign labour and cut the welfare bill.
We are not the world's food bank. It is not for us to provide welfare for people coming in from all over the world. The 800,000 people that will get indefinite leave to remain unless this policy is revoked tend to be young, tend to be low-skilled. They are going to be a huge burden on the state.
The UK has formally recognised a Palestinian state, joining Canada, Australia and Portugal in a historic shift. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has condemned the move as a reward for terrorism, insisting a Palestinian state, he says, will not happen. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper, though, says she has warned Israel not to annex part of the West Bank in retaliation. Well, France and several other European nations are now expected to follow suit as leaders are beginning to gather at the UN in New York for talks this week. Earlier, we heard from the Middle East Minister Hamish Falconer. He said that he rejects any suggestion that the recognition of Palestine is motivated by internal Labour politics.
We need to hold open the hope of two states living side by side, two communities living side by side in the Middle East. I'm the MP for Lincoln, and I know that people right across Lincoln and the country are concerned by the violence in Gaza. They are concerned by the fact that hostages still haven't been released, and they're concerned by the escalation of violence, and the Bush government is taking action to try and chart an alternative path towards peace for two people.
Turning to the United States, and Donald Trump has hailed Charlie Kirk as a great American hero at a memorial service held in Arizona last night. Tens of thousands packed into State Farm Stadium, where the Vice President and other top Trump officials praised the activist legacy. Kirk, who founded Turning Point USA at the age of just 18, was shot dead while debating students in Utah earlier this month. His wife, Erica, gave an emotional speech saying she forgave her husband's alleged killer.
That young man, I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do.
Here, police are appealing for help to identify 18 more people after violence at the Unite the Kingdom march in London. Hundreds of thousands joined the rally led by Tommy Robinson on the 13th of September, which he called the biggest freedom of speech event in British history. Around 5,000 counter-protests also gathered, with clashes breaking out. 24 arrests were made, 26 police officers assaulted, with bottles, flares and projectiles thrown. The Met Force has now released 16 new images, urging people nationwide to come forward with any information. Europe's busiest airports are this afternoon battling chaos after ransomware attacks paralysed check-in and boarding systems. The EU's cybersecurity agency says that Criminals used malicious software against aerospace firm Collins, disrupting flights since Friday. Heathrow and Berlin airports are relying on manual workarounds, while Brussels has cancelled nearly half of its departures today. Officials have revealed hackers remained inside even after systems were rebuilt, with more than 1,000 computers potentially corrupted. And Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander has given the green light for a £2.2 billion second runway at Gatwick Airport. The privately funded project would bring the northern runway into full use, allowing up to 100,000 more flights each year and doubling passenger numbers to 80 million. Chancellor Rachel Reeves says it will deliver thousands of jobs and billions in investment. She says it's part of plans to get Britain building again. But the Green Party has branded the move a disaster for the climate, with campaigners warning of more noise, more traffic and more pollution. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back in half an hour. Now, though, it's over 2. It's called Good Afternoon Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 2.
Now, some breaking news just coming into us. Sarah, Duchess of York, has been dropped as a patron of a children's hospice after it emerged that she sent an email apologising to paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein for publicly disowning him.
Well, let's get the very latest now on this breaking news with our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker.
Yes, not a very good look for the Duchess of York. So, of course, 2008, Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of a number of child sex offences. Then fast forward to 2011, Sarah, the Duchess of York, took part in a media interview where she apologised for accepting £15,000 from Jeffrey Epstein to pay off some of her debts. Now, it appears that Jeffrey Epstein was a bit annoyed by that media interview, because a couple of weeks later, having pledged to never contact the convicted paedophile again, Sarah did just that, secretly emailing Jeffrey Epstein a grovelling apology, calling him her supreme friend, which, of course, has now emerged in the Sunday papers. And that is why the charity, Julia's House, has decided to cut ties with Sarah, Duchess of York. Of course, it is a children's hospice charity. Now, the charity has said in a statement, following the information shared this weekend on the Duchess of York's correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein, Julia's House has taken the decision that it would be inappropriate for her to continue as a patron of the charity. We have advised the Duchess of York of this decision and thank her for her past support. Now, a spokesman for the Duchess previously told GB News ahead of this announcement this afternoon that the Duchess spoke of her regret about her association with Epstein many years ago, and as they have always been, her first thoughts are with the victims. Now, I understand that the reason why the Duchess claimed she sent that email to Epstein, having said she'd never speak to him again, was because Jeffrey Epstein threatened her with defamation, threatened to sue her for associating him with paedophilia. So that is the reason, we understand it, why the Duchess sent that email. But nonetheless, quite a terrible error of judgment, many would see it as.
It does sound like a bit of a strange sort of excuse, doesn't it? I mean, a private grovelling email that was supposed to avoid a defamation case, but everyone on the planet was calling Jeffrey Epstein a paedophile. I mean, it doesn't quite make sense.
Don't forget, he'd lent her money, though, so I actually feel a little bit sorry for her, because I think it's an error of judgment, but it sounds like she was under pressure, which is why she did that.
She was under pressure. She was legally advised, I understand it, to send the email, but as you say, Tom, Jeffrey Epstein, by that point, was a well-known convicted sex offender. And, of course, it comes back to the fundamental issue when it comes to either the Duke or the Duchess of York. Their judgment appears to be slightly poor by associating themselves with very, very rich, powerful men who perhaps are slightly dodgy, and, of course, accepting money.
I mean, if the guy was convicted of child sex trafficking and prostitution, I mean, how do you describe that other than paedophilia?
Well, I was trying to work out, well, how would he be able to sue her for defamation if he was already a convicted sex offender? But nonetheless, that was the legal advice I understand that she was given. So, as you say, Nana, she may have been forced into a corner by the lawyers to write that email, but she did do the opposite of what she said she would do a couple of weeks before, and, of course, not contact Jeffrey Epstein again.
But why are Andrew and Sarah Ferguson seemingly always in a position where they're needing more money.
Well, with the Duchess of York, I think she had around £5 million worth of debts, and she needed to pay off her former personal assistant, who she couldn't afford to pay the salary of. That was what the £15,000 from Jeffrey Epstein was. Reportedly, we can't confirm this independently at GBNews, but reportedly that deal was brokered by Prince Andrew, who, of course, was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, as has been well documented over the last couple of years. Sarah, at the time, no longer a working royal, did not receive any money from the Privy Purse at the time, but now, of course, known as the Sovereign Grant. Prince Andrew, of course, was a working member of the royal family, did associate himself with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think we understand it took money, but, of course, Sarah was by herself and did have a lot of debt and was struggling to repay that money.
See, that's difficult because once you're no longer in the royal fold, you now have to find some way of making money. And you can't appear to be poor because you've come from the royal fold, so people expect you to have money. So it's difficult to then try and create an income.
Well, it's the optics as well, because at the time she was writing children's books. She still does. And, of course, writing and calling a convicted paedophile a supreme friend in an email at the same time that you are writing and publishing children's book, that's where people are having an issue, and that is why the charity has decided to cut ties with Sarah this afternoon.
Now, of course, Andrew has been embroiled in this for a long, long time. Is this the first time that Sarah has been sort of dragged into this long-running scandal?
It was always known that she had associations with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think we knew the full extent until those emails were published in the newspapers this weekend. So that is why reaction is now happening from charities associated with Sarah, Duchess of York.
And is there verification that it was a lawyer that advised her to say to send the email?
That's what I understand, yes.
So there is verification.
But the charity has decided that the optics of having her as a patron is too difficult to continue.
But I can see that she was clearly under pressure, and her story is true that the lawyers suggested that she do that. Unfortunately, she'd said something different earlier. But that is sad, isn't it?
Tricky situation.
Very tricky. Cameron Walker, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, moving on now.
But before we do that, we've got a statement. The charity Julia's House said in a statement...
Yes, following the information shared this weekend on the Duchess of York's correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein, Julia's House has taken the decision that it would be inappropriate for her to continue as a patron of the charity. We have advised the Duchess of York on this decision and thank her for past support.
OK.
Well, moving on now.
The decision by the UK government to recognise Palestine as a state has caused much controversy, but the UK is not the only country who's decided to recognise Palestine.
Yes, the UK joined Canada, Australia and Portugal and recognised Palestine in a symbolic move that aims to place more pressure on the Israeli government to agree to a ceasefire.
So how has the decision to recognise Palestine been received in those countries?
Well, let's cross down under now, get the thoughts of journalist and founder of Believe Advertising and PR, Adrian Falk. Adrian, thanks for joining us, whatever time it is in Australia currently. This seems like a coordinated effort, but how's it being taken in Australia?
Thanks so much for having me, Nana and Tom. And yes, good afternoon. Greetings from Sydney, Australia. You know, Australia has announced overnight here in Australia that our Prime Minister has taken the stance to recognise Palestine as a state, along with other Commonwealth countries, the UK and Canada. And to be honest, the only people who seem to be cheering in the streets is Hamas. Hamas, the international terrorist organisation that's currently controlling Gaza, has actually officially announced today that it was due to its fruits of October the 7th, where it killed 1,200 Jewish people. It was the second amount of Jewish people to die since the Holocaust, where it raped, murdered, beheaded babies. And they said it's because of these activities that Western countries are standing up and now taking a stance to vote Palestine in its favour. And this is the actions that Australia today has done with Hamas celebrating. In fact, it was just last week, pro-Palestinian protesters were actually campaigning outside our PM's office, and he's had to shut his office down, saying that his stance is not enough. So how would our PM able to get Hamas to stand down when in fact he's had to hide away from these pro-Palestinian protesters here in Australia?
So if these countries taken leave of their senses, what What effect in these countries will recognising Palestine as a state have, say, for example, in Australia? What benefit or what will this do for you in Australia, having done this?
Exactly. To be honest, 25 Republican legislators on the eve of this announcement have actually written to Australia, along with other countries like the UK and Canada, and said there's going to be punitive damages against us, punitive measures. And, you know, Australians are concerned. We have a cost of living crisis like the rest of the world, housing crisis, immigration crisis. And so why now are we dipping our toes in these matters of the Middle East when we're actually going against one of our biggest allies, the US? And if people are wanting peace, then why don't we put pressure on Hamas to actually release the 48 hostages? And that's when Israel said they will actually exit Gaza and there will be peace. Maybe the countries like Australia should be uniting against the release of hostages rather than rewarding Hamas as such.
Well, it certainly is a very difficult position, and we're seeing this around the world. Frankly, is there anything concrete that is going to come on this, or is this an attempted triangulation for a voter base? I mean, you've spoken about the protests outside your Prime Minister's office. In this country, too, there are certainly voter groups that are electing in independent MPs, a new party being formed. Is this all about domestic political triangulation?
Absolutely. You know, our Prime Minister, he has footage has emerged of him since his university days, campaigning for Palestine, chanting for the river to the sea, which ultimately is demising Israel as a nation and the Jewish people. So I can't see how there will be any positive effect. In fact, it's very polarizing, and it's actually creating a lot of separation, I feel, not just in Australia, but also hatred within other communities internationally as well. Instead, I feel like we should be unified, coming together collectively to all want the hostages to be freed, essentially.
Well, you'd think they'd have put that condition in place at the very least, but I have no idea why they didn't. But Adrian Falk, thank you very much. He's the founder of Believe Advertising and PR.
Well, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now. Still plenty of time for you to become our biggest winner to date. Yes, an entire package worth over £104,000. Here are the details.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British Giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, the Lib Dems announced smartphone curb plans for children should treat TikTok like cigarettes. Yes, it's day 3 of the Liberal Democrat Party conference. We'll be there live next.
All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Well, in other news, it's day 3 of the Liberal Democrat Autumn Conference, which is continuing in Bournemouth.
Yeah, a couple of the ideas being put forward by the party. Well, one is a cigarette-style health warning on social media apps and a doom-scrolling cap.
So will these announcements help improve the Lib Dem's poll rating, which has been stuck at 15% for most of the year?
Well, let's go straight to Bournemouth now. Sunny Bournemouth, where we can join our political editor, Christopher Hope, joined by the Lib Dem MP for Richmond Park, Sarah Olney.
That's right, Tom. I'm loving your Big Brother accent, Nana. It's fantastic. Yeah, day 3 here at the Lib Dem conference. I'm joined now by Sarah Olney, of course, who is the Shadow Cabinet Office Minister. Sarah Olney, before we talk about your policies, your reaction to Sarah Ferguson losing the patronage of one of her charities?
Well, I think it's the only thing possible after what's been revealed about her emails to Jeffrey Epstein. I think any charity would want to know that their trustees, observe the highest possible standards of child protection, and I really do think that these emails very much undermine that. So I'm not surprised that this has happened.
She's patroned, I think, of 4 other charities. Should she also lose those?
It feels like it might be the right thing to do. Obviously, that's a matter for them, but I really think these revelations about these emails, I think that makes her position untenable.
We're speaking on a day which Reform UK are announcing plans, aren't they, which could see the deportation of hundreds of thousands of migrants who thought they were here legally and are here legally under the current laws. What's your response to those plans?
I think what we've heard today from Reform UK about their plans to deport people who've been given indefinite leave to remain, I think is absolutely, Liberal Democrats are very opposed to that. We're talking about people who have come here legally, who have built their lives here, who have raised their families, who are contributing to their communities, and they've invested their energy, their money in the UK in the expectation that they would be allowed to stay and put down roots here. So to deport them when they really have nothing to go back to, nowhere else to go, and they've made that investment in this country, it's outrageous, and we're absolutely opposed to that.
Well, they've come from somewhere. They can go back to where they came from, can't they? Nigel Farage says it might cut money off the benefits bill.
I mean, by and large, the people who are granted indefinite leave to remain, they're working, they're raising their families here, they're contributing to their communities, they're filling vacancies in our economy that are absolutely essential. And, in many cases, people are being given indefinite leave to remain. In my constituency in Richmond Park, many of them, for example, have come from Hong Kong and they're fleeing Chinese repression. We can't send them back there. We've made a commitment, we've made a promise. They've played by the rules, they've played their part. We owe it to them to respect the sacrifices that they've made.
But the least Reform are trying to take on the big issues of the day, notably net migration. Your party is announcing cigarette-style warnings on TikTok videos. I mean, that's not really relevant to the main worries of most people today in Britain.
I fundamentally disagree with that, Chris. It is a massive issue, and any parent of teenagers, as I am, and I'm sure many of your viewers are, will be extremely concerned about the impact that social media is having on their mental health. And we know from the evidence that social media has can have a really negative impact on young people's mental health, and that what we're saying today is that restricting that usage of social media to 2 hours a day for young people whose brains are still developing, remember, will really prevent them from the worst harms that social media has to offer. So we're talking about that today, but we're here in sunny Bournemouth. We're talking about lots of different things, Chris, because when we're out talking to our constituents every day of the week, and we know that things people are really concerned about are the cost of living, the NHS, and people really wanting to get on in their lives and finding it really, really hard. So we've got lots of different things going on here in Bournemouth.
Do you worry, though, you're not cutting through? You've got 72 MPs, but what is the biggest policy, the biggest breakthrough you've made in politics since the election?
Well, you're absolutely right. We've got 72 MPs. It's the largest number of Liberal Democrat MPs we've ever had. We continue to make gains in the local elections in May. We now run more councils than the Conservatives do. So, we think we are having an impact. We've already had an impact in this Parliament. We've secured a better deal for carers. We are securing solar panels on every new build, which today, you can really see the benefits for that, but, cutting fuel bills. So, we are having an impact in lots of different ways, but, we want to do much more. There's no limit to our ambition. We think we can go much further. We're looking forward to more gains in next year's local elections and looking forward to the next general election. Right. We are very ambitious. So
and will you win that, though? Will you win that election, or would you look at doing a coalition with Labour if they were the biggest party?
We'd love to win. It's still a long way away. There's plenty of time, and as I say, there's no limit to our ambitions. But right now, we're focused on winning the seats that we think we've got an opportunity to.
You won't rule it out, though.
It's a long way till the next general election, and we can't see we can't see that far ahead. What I would say is that Liberal Democrats think Labour have been very disappointing in government so far, and we will be pushing them to be more ambitious throughout this Parliament, but also, as I say, looking to make gains at the next election.
Sarah Olney, thank you for joining us there. Sarah Olney there, with a message there maybe for charities, of course, where Sarah Ferguson is a patron. Back to you.
All right, Christopher, thank you very much. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon, 2:30, the top story. Reform UK says it will scrap indefinite leave to remain, forcing migrants to reapply for visas every 5 years. Labour has branded it a gimmick that risks harming businesses and breaking post-Brexit deals. But Nigel Farage claims it could save billions of pounds and put an end to cheap foreign workers.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
Britain's recognition of a Palestinian state is set to dominate the United Nations summit in New York. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper says that move is about reviving the hope of peace. Israel, though, has condemned it as a reward for terrorism. In the US, tens of thousands gathered to honour activist Charlie Kirk. Donald Trump hailed him as a martyr for America's freedom, while Kirk's widow made headlines by forgiving her husband's alleged killer. Gatwick Airport has been given the green light for a £2.2 billion second runway, with ministers calling it a no-brainer for growth. The project could see more than 100,000 extra flights each year, and passenger numbers double to 80 million, but critics warn it's a disaster for the climate. Excuse me, those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with you tomorrow.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. 33 minutes past 2. There's still so much more to come on today's programme.
HR is taking over Britain. A new study has revealed that more people working in HR in the UK than doctors and lawyers. They've made workplaces friendlier, sure, but have they also strangled productivity?
And, of course, send your views and post your comments. gbnews.com/your say. We'll get into your views, your comments, very shortly indeed.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, today got off to a bit of a fresh start, but there was also plenty of sunshine this morning, and that's the theme that we're going to take into the afternoon as well, with high pressure firmly in control. It was this high pressure that led to clear skies and light winds overnight, allowing temperatures to take a bit of a drop, and it's that same weather setup we have through the afternoon, so a largely fine picture for many of us. Lots of sunshine, especially across England and Wales, a little bit cloudy with a few showery bursts perhaps across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. The showers most frequent towards the northeast. Now, it is a bit fresh out there at the moment, but in the sunshine, especially across England and Wales, should feel relatively warm. Temperatures getting into mid to high teens Celsius. Generally, that is a little bit below average for the time of year. Through the end of the day, not a huge amount changes, so the Northern Isles still seeing some fairly frequent outbreaks of showery rain, a few showers skirting some coastal parts of Scotland, and maybe one or two showers around coastal parts of Northern Ireland too. Most places, though, staying largely dry. You can't rule out one or two showers feeding into northwest Wales, but again, most areas having a dry end to the day and some late sunshine as well breaking through. Then as we go overnight, a few showers continuing here and there, mainly towards the far northeast of Scotland, perhaps the far southeast of England seeing a few showers, and the winds picking up here as well. Elsewhere, most places having another dry, clear and calm night. So once more, I'm expecting temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Some rural spots could see a touch of frost, especially in the north, and there may be the odd pocket of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning, but this will quickly clear because once the sun comes up, that will burn any mist and fog away, and then we're set to have another largely fine day for many, the exception being across parts of the east-southeast of England, where the winds will be strengthening and there will be some showery bursts pushing their way in. Temperatures, well, similar to today, so a bit below average.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A720 eastbound, a broken down vehicle after Calder Junction requires caution. The M25 clockwise has a disabled vehicle after the A20 roundabout. Expect significant 15-minute delays on the M6 northbound between junctions 32 and 33, but these should resolve shortly. The M40 northbound in Buckinghamshire is constrained between junctions 4 and 5 due to a collision with one lane closed. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services are disrupted between Crewe and Stafford. The Elizabeth line faces setbacks between Stratford and Romford. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 36 minutes past 2. Now, human resource departments are bigger than ever in Britain, some of the biggest in the world, now outnumbering our own doctors and lawyers.
Wow, with jobs in HR up 68% since 2010. They've made workplaces friendlier, sure, but have they also strangled productivity?
Well, and also, have they really made workplaces friendlier?
I don't think they have. I mean, not to be rude, but I'm not... And if you work in HR, I respect that you have studied and done your thing, but I don't know what they do. And I think
I'm sure you could... I mean, there's necessary to have maybe a couple of HR people, but entire HR departments with dozens and dozens of people. How is this productive?
Well, the other thing is, I think it's become sections, haven't you? You've got a DEI department, you've got a human resource department, you've got a net zero department. I think they could all just merge into one and you could cut down the people.
You could have a lot fewer people. Shall we speak to Harry Wallop, the consumer expert and journalist? Harry, there has just been the most extraordinary explosion of HR jobs in this country. Why?
Well, this is what I looked into in yesterday's Sunday Times magazine, and the reasons are quite complicated, and they have been going on for some time. One of the key reasons is the complexity of employment law in the UK. So the Disability Act of 2010 means that a workplace now has the responsibility to take into account all sorts of protected characteristics. So we're talking here about disability, your race, your sexual orientation, your gender. So that is all protected under law. And then what's happened is that a lot of companies got very nervous about, are they breaking the law? So they then tasked the HR department, who traditionally for many years was just, payroll and hiring and firing, maybe a bit of training. They then got involved to make sure these workplaces weren't breaking the law, which is why a lot of us have to go on endless workplace training programs to check that we're not racist or ableist or all the other things that we shouldn't be doing. Lots of sort of health and safety things. So a lot of it is essentially a grand exercise in box ticking and to make sure that these companies don't get dragged into expensive employment tribunals.
Wouldn't they be better off hiring a lawyer? Do you know what I mean? Because you can have a lawyer who can bring in a bit more. And no disrespect to people who work in HR. I'm sure people work hard, they become qualified and trained. But does it not feel like it's a profession that is now sort of really dying out? And it's like if you're a wealthy, big company with lots of money, then you could potentially have an HR department. But if you're a small company, you don't need it.
Well, I think that's another reason why there are so many HR people. A lot of small companies feel they do need an HR person. And then there's all about, well, in defense of HR, they would say, well, we're about attracting people. One of our main jobs is hiring. And how do we hire people in this day and age when a lot of younger people are quite fussy about where they want to work, to make sure they work in a companies whose values align with their own. So you then ensure the HR department shapes the culture of the company. Yeah. You then have this real tension because what you've got workers who think that the HR department is to stick up for them and to fight for their rights. And, well, not really, because actually the job of the HR is to work for the company and for the shareholders of that company. So I think that's where a lot of sort of culture wars have happened within companies and a lot of tension. And a lot of people have a dim view of HR because when push comes to shove and they need to axe some workers, it turns out HR aren't on their side.
Well, this is the interesting thing, isn't it? We've seen this massive expansion in HR at a time when we've seen basically no expansion in our productivity. Now, I'm not saying that one necessarily is the only cause of the other. That would be absurd. But surely this feeds into one of the issues here. We're not becoming more productive. Firms are not becoming more productive. They're spending more and more money on internal organisation rather than doing the product or service for which they exist in the first place.
Yes. I mean, this is the argument of Pamela Dow, of a former very senior civil servant who I interviewed for this magazine piece. And she says it's more than just a correlation. There has to be some link between the fact that A, HR departments have expanded, and B, we spend just an awful lot of time on, frankly, very self-indulgent sort of culture-based training. It is not the job of workplaces, really, to make the world a friendlier, nicer place. That might be a very nice benefit if you get fantastic perks and they look after you very well, and that may attract more people in through the door. But that's not ultimately what our workplaces are for.
But also, some of these perks aren't perks at all. It's not necessarily an away day to go bowling together or sort of go have a drink. It's to sit in a seminar learning about how to not be racist. I mean, a lot of this stuff, people just think, what a waste of time.
Can I just ask you, does this not feed into the whole culture wars thing because we've got such an issue with it now? And also, with the workers' rights bill coming soon, is this not another reason why we need people in HR because it's so complex?
Well, that's a very good argument. I mean, the new workers' rights bill, on the assumption it goes into full legislation at some point later this year or early next year, it's going to be boom time for employment lawyers and boom time for HR. So, yeah, absolutely, because you will then be entitled to sue for unfair dismissal from basically day one of employment. Awful. And currently, it takes 2 years before you can take your company to employment tribunal. And I spent a lot of time reading a lot of employment tribunal rulings when I was researching this, and it is astonishing how many people try and essentially chance their arm. Workers they're more knowledgeable about their rights than it used to be the case. It's far easier to Google. In fact, AI is frankly turbocharging workers taking their companies to employment tribunals because they can just use ChatGPT to say, do I have a case for unfair dismissal? And you speak to employment lawyers to say, oh yeah, no, we can see that these are clearly being done. There's nothing wrong with these cases. They're actually sometimes quite legitimate, but it is encouraging more and more people. It's cheaper, it's free, it's just easy to do. You think, actually, I might be able to get some money out of this company because I think I was dismissed unfairly, rather than actually I wasn't a very good worker. They had perfectly good reason to get rid of me for being incompetent.
But also, shouldn't a company just be allowed to get rid of someone, quote-unquote, unfairly?
Not with the workers' rights, but it won't work like that. You've got rights from day one. Harry Wallop, thank you very much. He's a consumer expert and journalist.
Well, from tonight, we'll be bringing you more coverage of events from America and news from the White House when our new show, The Late Show Live, launches in Washington, D.C. Here's what you can expect from The Late Show Live.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts tonight at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. I mean, it's so great to have a presence in America, of course, and contact with the leader of the free world. Beverly asked a question and he went, Bev. So we're in there, and that's important, really, for us, especially as a news channel and for this country, because we have an interesting perspective on things that hasn't really been shown by other channels in this country.
And when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. It's really important to be there at the heart of global affairs, as we've sort of felt that geopolitical centre shift over the course of the last 80 years from London to Washington. It has never been more pertinent and important to be there.
Yeah, we'll stay with us because, of course, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
But, of course, if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, perhaps not quite as far as Washington, D.C., which can be quite cold this time of year, here's the weather in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello. Well, it's a mixed picture out there across Europe. Rain and thunderstorms for some, but even still, we've got some warm sunshine out there. So showery outbreaks of rain affecting Madeira, but across much of Portugal and Spain, fine, dry and settled. But there is this area of low pressure, and that's going to bring showers, perhaps even thunderstorms, especially across the Alps. Best of the sunshine across Greece, feeling warm here. And that's a similar picture as we go through the week. Sunny spells and highs of up to 27 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's time now to have a look through some of your views, because a lot of you have been saying a lot of things. Because we were talking about America, last night, I watched the coverage of Charlie Kirk's funeral.
Yeah.
Really sad. Erica, incredible.
Moving.
Grumpy Grandad has been in touch with regard to that, because Erica was full of forgiveness. And he said, someone kills my partner or friends and family, I wouldn't be forgiving them, no way in hell. But I'm not religious, so good luck and best wishes to Charlie's wife.
It was an interesting debate we had earlier on the programme. I get a sense that there is a sort of sense of religious or spiritual forgiveness, some sort of, a spiritual forgiveness that isn't so temporal. So if you're someone who doesn't hold a strong sense of faith, perhaps that's a bit more of a jarring thing to hear, the idea that you could forgive someone who committed such a heinous crime.
Yeah, I mean, there was a saying, always forgive your enemies, never forget their names or their faces. Do you know who said that?
Who said that?
It was JF Kennedy. It's a JF Kennedy phrase.
It's interesting, but I still think it is kind of jarring. If you've forgiven them, but you're not forgetting that I forgive, but I don't forget. Well, what does that actually mean to forgive then?
So you don't repeat the same mistake. So you know who your enemies are, forgive them, release the energy.
But if you're calling them your enemies, then you haven't forgiven them.
You have.
But they're your enemy.
No, but being confident and aware, so being aware someone's your enemy, doesn't mean...
That doesn't sound like you've forgiven them.
You have forgiven them, but you know...
No, they'd be your friend if you'd forgiven them.
Well, no, you don't necessarily make friends. You can just realise this person is bad, but you forgive them for the things they've done, but you don't want that to happen.
But if you think that they are a bad person, by definition you haven't forgiven them.
You've forgiven them, but you just acknowledge...
What does it mean to forgive someone then?
It's a release, so you don't harbour a grudge. See, that's what it is.
But if you think they're bad, you are harbouring a grudge.
Not really. You just acknowledge that they're bad, but it doesn't mean you need to harbour a grudge.
But you don't do anything about it? You hold at the back of your mind that they're bad?
No, you just acknowledge it and then you move on. You know you can't trust them, that's that. You don't go, oh, well, I forgive you. Oh, I'll give you all my trust again. You go, I forgive you, but I acknowledge it. Right, let's see, what else have we got?
Well, of course, we've been talking about this Palestinian statehood. We're going to be expecting to see some of the UN a little bit later this afternoon, where it's all going to be formally acknowledged. William's been in touch to say, by recognising a Palestinian state, Starmer is basically rewarding terrorism and the torturing of babies, the elderly and women on October the 7th.
Yeah, well, I feel that. I can totally understand that. This one, we were concerned over migrants working in care homes. Jane Britton says, I wonder how many of us have seen TV footage of care workers who are not UK residents but have been given visas and then have abused our elderly parents in care homes.
It's a concern that a lot of people have. On forgiveness, East Coast Guy has got in touch to say, each time I watch the clip of Erica Kirk saying, I forgive you, she looks like she is in so much pain. Her inner strength must have been in serious overdrive. I wonder how many men could handle that amount of anguish and pain.
Yeah, no, women are incredible. Much better than men. I'm teasing. And Jazzy says cyclists should pay public liability insurance. I agree with you on that, absolutely, 100%. They should do, shouldn't they? I've no idea why they don't. Maybe it's a thing that...
But children are cycling. You can't tell a 12-year-old to take out public liability insurance.
Well, you can make sure the parents do for the kid that gets on the bicycle.
No.
It's wise if anything happens.
Just keep the bikes separate from the cars.
Well, whatever. It's not going to happen, is it? Listen, thank you so much for watching Good Afternoon Britain. Do not go anywhere.
Yes, of course. It's Martin Daubney up next. So, Martin, what's coming up?
Fantastic show, guys, as ever. It was big, it was brash, it was bold. It was Nigel Farage's biggest immigration announcement yet. Was it his Donald Trump build the wall moment? It would no doubt be coming under huge scrutiny, but is it exactly what the electorate want to hear? At first, it was the St George's flag is far right, and now archbishops reverends and lords are saying the crucifix is far right. They're slamming Christians who use crosses and crucifixes at the Unite the Kingdom march the other weekend, saying this is anti-race, it's racist, it's anti-Muslim. It's not the kind of thing we should be doing with the crucifix. Who are they to tell anybody what we're allowed to do with the cross when many people believe it is under a huge amount of threat? And why don't they ever speak out about radical Islamism? Do they pick their battles, the men in cloth? That's all coming on the show, 3 till 6 p.m. But first, here is your weather forecast, and I'll see you shortly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, in quite a contrast to the weather we've had so far through much of this September, it looks like high pressure is going to be firmly in control through much of this week. And with that high pressure, we're going to continue with the largely settled theme that we've started the week off on. With that then, there will be more sunshine as we go through the very end of the day, just a few showers dotted around some coastal parts, and then largely dry, clear weather overnight. Also light winds for most of us, the exception being towards the far northeast of Scotland and also towards the southeast of England, where the winds will be a bit stronger and there will be a few showers pushing their way in. Because of the clear skies and light winds for many of us, well, temperatures are going to drop again. Again, across some parts of Scotland, maybe Northern Ireland, there could be a touch of frost in rural spots, and even further south, it is going to be a rather fresh, if not chilly, start to the day for many of us. With that then, there could also be some mist and fog patches first thing, but once the sun comes up, that will help clear those away pretty quickly. And for many, it is going to be, yes, a fresh start to the day for sure, but also a largely fine one. Just a few showers here and there. Still, Orkney and Shetland seeing a fair few showery bursts. Otherwise, it is going to be mostly dry. And that's the theme through much of the day, although across parts of East Anglia, towards Kent and maybe pushing towards London, there will be some fairly frequent showers, and some of these could be a little bit heavy at times, and there will be some stronger blustery winds here as well. A bit more cloud developing from the east compared to today, but most places staying dry with some sunshine breaking through. And yes, in the sunshine, it's not going to feel too bad. Relatively warm for some, with temperatures in the mid to high teens, but worth noting those temperatures are a little bit below average for the time of year. More fine weather to come for most as we go through the end of the day. The cloud breaking up a little bit further, so some clearer skies overnight, and just still a few showers continuing, particularly across East Anglia. Largely dry as we go through the end of the week. High pressure still firmly in control, but more unsettled by the weekend. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Are you panicking when you're in Northern Ireland when you go out and about because there is a lack of chargers?
Well, listen, I'm really pro-EV, and we've had the odd issue with broken EV chargers, particularly yesterday at both Ballymoney at Beasties and also over at Dunsilley. We had issues with chargers, but the charging infrastructure is used very rarely. My mother, for example, she has overnight charging at home. She's never used a public charger, and she's had the car for 3 years.
Yeah.
So if you've got that domestic overnight charging, it's cheap. It's very affordable if you buy a 2-year-old EV, and they are absolutely the way forward. I'm a Yorkshireman. I don't like parting with my brass. I want to get cheap motoring, and for less than a penny a mile and a car for less than 20 grand to start with, you know, it sounds a bit blasé saying £20,000, but relative to what these cars are new, they're incredible value for money. And we're seeing mass adoption. There's a garage in Richmond in North Yorkshire that sells more than half of the cars they sell are electric vehicles, and that's in a rural Dales area. So it's about having that domestic overnight charging and not having to rely on public infrastructure.
Danny, where it doesn't convince me at all is, right, so I'm living in London and I want to go to see Manchester United, and I might get there, but am I going to get back down again? Or worse still, if I'm not on full charge, I'm going to miss kickoff because I'm going to have to rely on a public charger somewhere. So is that the sort of anxiety? I mean, you were talking about range anxiety there, Ellie. Is that the sort of anxiety people have? I mean, I genuinely have that. Despite what we were hearing there from Fraser.
GB News, the People's Channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you and a happy Monday. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Dalby Show here on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK. All the very latest news, debates and analysis all the way until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on your action-packed show today.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
Yesterday, Nigel Farage announced a Trump-style clampdown on immigration in the United Kingdom, the mass deportation of hundreds of thousands and a ban on foreigners claiming benefits that they claim could save up to £234 billion. But do the numbers add up? We'll have full expert analysis throughout the show. And the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, has been dropped as the patron